There's 9 100s in it then as Montoya goes into the final two corners. This is where Raikkonen slid. Was that decisive? Oh, it's a massive slide for Montoya. He's biffed it into the barriers and he's thrown it all away.
A monster mistake that visibly pained boss Ron Dennis. Montoya spins from a possible pole to the back. Raikkonen's fastest, but Hockenheim is his bogey track. He's never finished here. Jenson Button loves the place. He starts ahead of the World Championship leader Fernando Alonso. His aim is simple: don't let the Finn fly away. ITV Sport welcomes you to Hockenheim for the 12th round of the championship, the German Grand Prix.
Hello there, good afternoon from the pit lane. We normally fry at this Grand Prix, but throughout this weekend it's been a lot cooler than normal. The current temperature around 25 degrees, and I've just seen the first few drops of rain coming down as well. 8 races to go then. Fernando Alonso has led the championship since the second Grand Prix in Malaysia back in March. It really is looking very good for the Spaniard. But he knows those McLaren Mercedes are really in a class of their own at the moment. Raikkonen has to recover a 26-point deficit. Michael Schumacher has clawed his way up to third. Schumi with massive and loyal support in these parts. Barrichello neck and neck with Trulli. Then British Grand Prix winner Montoya. Fisichella and the German Heidfeld both on 25 above Ralf Schumacher, Hockenheim winner back in 2001, and Webber in the improving Williams BMW. First up then, your qualifying report with race commentators Martin Brundle and James Allen.
Well, this was set up to be one of the most exciting qualifying sessions of the season so far, for several reasons really, Martin. First of all, Montoya back on form with McLaren, but secondly, for once, all the big names were going late in the qualifying hour, so there were no excuses for them really.
Yes, and despite lots of forecasts of rain, the weather was actually pretty consistent, except the track temperature rose quite a lot. Now, those drivers with a well-balanced car suddenly found they had bundles of oversteer. Those with an understeer car were actually quite happy with their balance. Let's take a look.
Robert Dornbos becomes the 6th driver to make his Grand Prix debut this season, driving an improved Minardi. He and Christian Albers were comprehensively faster than the Jordans. 16th and 17th their award. Red Bull Racing looked good for top 10 on the grid. David Coulthard made a lot of changes to the weight distribution of the car, but a couple of small mistakes lost him a few tenths. He wound up 11th behind teammate Christian Klien. Michael Schumacher has not had a pole this season and he looked a long way off it here. Ferrari is still short on grip. A new aero package has improved the balance of the car, but the tyres don't like it the more rubber goes down on the track. Schumacher went for a lighter fuel load and bagged 5th, while Barrichello is 15th.
It was a clean, nice lap. Not much to complain about that. I think we should look forward, but there is not much to look forward. There's probably Jensen we can fight. The rest I doubt we can.
Well, Jenson Button had a great lap, much more aggressive than usual, a little too aggressive through turn 12 when the car snapped out, but it was good enough for a front row start slot for the second race in a row.
Had a little bit too much oversteer in the car, had a couple of moments, but it was good fun, and I kept my foot in, and to be on the front row again is great. But our aim in the race is to just stay as close as we can to the Renaults and the McLarens.
Kimi Raikkonen faced a stiff challenge here from his own teammate Juan Pablo Montoya. It was always going to be very close between these two. Raikkonen knew it. He attacked the lap with gusto and controlled this slide absolutely beautifully through turn 16. He snatched provisional pole position and really gave Fernando Alonso something to think about. The McLaren is working beautifully here, and what about this for car control?
Hopefully it keeps going like this. You never know what happens in a race, but I think so. We have a very good race car, and we seem to be quick all the time. So as long as everything works well, we should be okay.
Renault don't have the single lap qualifying pace of McLaren, but there's little to choose between them on race pace. Alonso knew that, and he did his own thing on strategy here. He makes so few mistakes and delivers a lap just short of Jenson Button's to put him third on the grid in sight of Raikkonen. But with a 26-point cushion in the World Championship over the Finn, he can afford to play the percentage game this afternoon.
Hopefully I can overtake Jenson, which is my priority. And then for sure for the podium finishes, Jenson will be there.
Montoya was on a real high going into qualifying, looking to snatch pole away from his teammate. Like Raikkonen, he got oversteer. Unlike Raikkonen, he couldn't control it. A terrible mistake for the Colombian that's costing McLaren in both championships. He cannot play a role for his teammate today.
Well, we got the time on the dash, and I thought, oh, this is looking good, and just to make sure good exit out of last corner. As soon as I lifted, rear end just stepped out and I couldn't get it.
Sometimes between triumph and disaster there can be just the slenderest of margins. Well, a pretty expensive mistake there for Montoya on a number of levels, really. I mean, he can't take points out of Alonso, which Kimi Raikkonen would dearly love him to do here today. He's not going to contribute much to McLaren's pot either, so expensive. But what's your view on it? Do you admire his competitive spirit, or do you think he's a clot?
Well, they had a car advantage at McLaren. Of course, the balance changed for them and nearly caught them both out. Raikkonen held on to it. Montoya couldn't, got too far up on the curb. But this is a disaster for the team because it'll take 2 or 3 races to wash out. He's got to come through the pack today to give himself half a chance with the qualifying slot for Hungary next weekend, where you just cannot pass in the race. So it could be as far away as Turkey before he's back up there helping Raikkonen out.
What is absolutely clear, though, at this time of the season is that McLaren and Renault have a significant performance advantage over everybody else, both in qualifying trim and in race trim. We've seen that on the long runs. Jenson Button, though, he's on their kind of coattails in a terrific battle, I think, this afternoon with Michael Schumacher and the rest to maybe try and nick a podium.
Yeah, there are definitely going to be 2 parts to this race this afternoon, but there was a standout performance from Jenson Button in qualifying. Let's take a look at the lap. Hockenheim for the German Grand Prix. 67 frantic laps, hopefully with lots of overtaking. It's just over 4.5 clicks per lap. That's 2.85 miles. Get ready for a masterclass in how to drive a Formula 1 car around Hockenheim. Button, BAR, 185 miles an hour, turn 1, 110 on the apex. Balance the car beautifully on the throttle, up to 165 before the heavy braking zone of turn 2. It's slow, kiss the curb on the inside. Listen to this. He just squeezes the throttle as if it's going through treacle. He doesn't get a hint of traction control. Up to 195 miles an hour, the gentle left-hand curve, looking towards the hairpin. Massive braking, down at least 5 gears. He's been on all the right parts of the racetrack so far, and it's no change here. Straighten the car as soon as you can and nail the throttle pedal. An easy full throttle right-hander ahead of you. Nothing for Button to do apart from position the car on the right-hand side, ready for the left-hander of the Mercedes corner. Coax it further to the left-hand side. A hint of lift of the throttle through the right-hander, 120 miles an hour, up to 180, the unsighted stadium corner. It's tricky on the exit. That counts as a moment for Button on this lap. Hug the white line, that's perfect in the Sachs hairpin. Straighten up the piff-paff as much as you can, getting the car ready for the final 2 south curve corners. Superb, listen. Absolutely ready with the throttle, no more than needed, over the line, front row of the grid for Button. Great lap.
He goes so well here. We'll be looking at what might be happening to Jenson Button next season before the start of the German Grand Prix. It's still just spitting with rain here in the paddock, by the way. Now then, Tony, I want to talk about the man who's going to be starting on pole alongside Jenson Button, Kimi Raikkonen, who in the last couple of years has ended up in the same set of tyres.
It's a little bit like Canada. You could almost think it was Champions War. It could be forgiven for that because in 2003, there was a slow-starting Rubens Barrichello off the line, and Kimi got caught. He was pushed out towards the grass, mainly by Ralf Schumacher, and this is where he ended up, straight into that tyre wall. There you can see him going away in the first part of the Nord curve there, And again, the following year, chasing down Michael Schumacher in the lead. It was lap 14, the rear wing came off, and he had a big accident in the same place. No downforce of that. He was very, very angry, hurling down the steering wheel. But he's failed to finish in 4 German Grand Prix.
Yeah, he was angry because he thought he could have caught Michael Schumacher here last year. But it's a super place for overtaking this one. Who knows, if we do get a bit of rain, to make it even better, won't it, Tony? And Alonso and Jenson Button had a real dice here last year.
I think Jenson Button showed everybody this time last year that he's a very, very accomplished racing driver. Those who doubted his overtaking ability when he came from 13th on the grid, and then he hunted down Fernando Alonso. Fernando in a slight bit of trouble towards the end of the race. They had something caught underneath the car, but nevertheless, Jenson was on fire. His best race so far.
We thought he came of age here last year. For a while, he had to drive one-handed because he was literally getting strangled by his helmet strap.
Well, he was almost getting garroted, but the thing is that when you have a helmet that's loose and the air is pushing it up, if you imagine doing 180 miles an hour, the air is filling the helmet and it's trying to pull itself off your head at the same time strangling you. One hand on the helmet keeping it forced down, one hand on the steering wheel. It was real hero stuff. So there were plenty of stories after the race as well.
OK, just finally, how big a problem is it for him at the start? He might get swallowed up like he was at Silverstone.
Well, he's already talked about it. You know how quick your car is off the line. He knows that Fernando Alonso is on the outside, the grippy part, in 3rd place behind him. He could get swallowed up. Let's just hope he can hold his own through to that first bend.
So he's up on the front row. A bit of a surprise down the back as well, Tony. Just chat us through the grid.
Kimi Raikkonen's 4th pole this year puts McLaren in the driving seat, but it's Button's 2nd front row on the trot. Alonso's just glad to be 3rd and on the clean side. The fleet Renault fills 2nd row with Fisico. Michael Schumacher 5th and targeting Button. Webber and Heidfeld 6th and 7th in the improving Williams. Takuma Sato's BAR Honda 8th. Trulli's Toyota had brake problems in 9th. Young Klein delighted to beat Red Bull teammate to 10th. DC, because he locked up at the hairpin. Ralf Schumacher 12th. Massa Sauber 13th. His teammate Villeneuve 14th. 15th Barrichello on harder Bridgestone tyres. He's only just ahead of the Dutch success of Minardi men. Albers 16th. Grand Prix debutant Dornbos 17th. They're ahead of the Jordans and birthday boy Montero, and Carter Cahan was last after aborting his lap. But hero to villain for McLaren, Montoya crashed.
So Juan Pablo Montoya starting right at the back of the grid, not really ideal.
Statistically capable of getting up into the points, and that's what we've got to be focused on, not worrying about what happened and all the ifs and buts.
Obviously, you've got Kimi right up the front there, though. I mean, he's never actually finished this race, but you've got to be pretty confident of his chances today.
We're not confident of anything because it's Formula One, and it's a tough thing to win at, but he's obviously in the strongest place to start. We're expecting a little bit of rain, but it should dry out before the beginning of the race. But it could be interesting because we expect intermittent rain through the race, so it's going to be tactically quite difficult and a challenging race to win.
How much of a battle are you expecting from Alonso and even from Jenson Button?
Well, we don't think that they're fueled particularly long. Certainly Button's not. We are, I think, on the right strategy, the optimum strategy, and it's a question of if we've got it wrong, but I think we'll be quite a bit quicker, so hopefully we'll pull out a lead, and if we've got that cushion, then pretty much it'll cover any sort of manoeuvrings that Renault bring to bear on us.
Thanks, Ron.
They win together and they lose together. But how big an error was that from Montoya, and should he have been more of a team player in qualifying?
Well, of course he should have been a team player, Jim, but he was thinking about himself. He was thinking about pole position for himself on the back of Silverstone. But the problem is he has compromised the team's position in terms of the Constructors' Championship. He said afterwards, I'm going to try and make amends and come through the field. But if it does stay dry, it's going to be very difficult. Remember, Kimi tried to come through the field from Silverstone at the back. He had problems with the aerodynamics. The aerodynamics are different this year. Can he do that? Will he be allowed to overtake by the aero?
We are deep in Schumi territory here. He says the Ferrari lacks performance. The fans are staying loyal. How do you see that Ferrari scenario?
Well, it's very difficult. He came here last year having won 10 Grand Prix, and he won his 3rd German Grand Prix. But they are very, very loyal fans indeed. They're not good time fans. You have to have the red shirt, the klaxon, and be able to moo, shoo me all night outside our window. But apart from that, they are genuinely loyal fans, and they're here rooting for him.
Every team in this paddock puts great store by the Constructors' Championship, and if we have a look at that, it does appear that their unprecedented 6 wins in a row, Ferrari I'm talking about, has come to a conclusion. McLaren, although Montoya has done them no favours, they believe they can haul in Renault at the top there, Tony.
Yeah, without the indiscretions of Juan Pablo Montoya, they could ostensibly do it. But, of course, it is a symbol of great technical achievement for the team, and it is something that all the team can join in. It's not just for the drivers. OK,
Tony, thank you very much. It is the first time we've had the brollies out all year. I think Ted's going to do a spot of weather forecasting for us.
Well, not weather forecasting, Jim. This is actuality. It is raining down here, and, well, look at this. There's a little... slightly worried Jenson Button. He's just having a look with his engineer Tristram, and they're seeing what they're going to go to the grid with. I've just had a look at Takuma Sato's pit wall here, and he's just held up, his engineer has just held up a board saying T Sato wet. So they think they're going to go to the grid with wet tyres. And of course the Michelin guys, Jim, are the ones who have to worry, because they haven't tested their latest wet tyres since a Jerez test when they artificially wet the track about 4 months ago. So they have not run a wet tyre since then. They've got to worry. Of course, these guys over here, Ferrari, who run the Bridgestones, they are laughing. A properly wet race would absolutely sort their German Grand Prix. And you know all the ones about Michael Schumacher being the Weathermeister, the Regenmeister, the Weather Supremo. He could win this one. Anyway, just to fill you in on the rules, you know they're not allowed to change the tyres. Well, they can change from the one set of dry tyres to the wet tyres, but if it stops raining, then they have to go back to the original set of dry tyres they were on when it was dry at the beginning of the race.
Thanks very much indeed for that, Ted. It won't do much for Ferrari's state of mind. That about stopped raining, and it was only at best a bit of a drizzle anyway. And now we always try and improve your understanding of what can be a very complicated sport. And in the first of a brand new series, Martin Brundle now takes a detailed look at the structure of the modern Formula One car.
Why do Formula One cars tend to look the same? There's a standing paddock joke that if you painted them all white and put them in a line, the Formula One team bosses couldn't tell you which one was theirs. Well, hands up. When I'm commentating on a long camera shot, I can get them wrong too, and that's when they're all painted and stick it up. Over the decades, the profile and concept of the cars has changed, and from time to time, there have been some very radical designs. Here are just a few examples. In the 50s, the slippery front-engine cars were fast in a straight line, but were also heavy. Soon the cars were rear-engined and far more nimble. Next, the engine and gearbox would become stressed items and part of the monocoque space frame chassis, and looking far more purposeful. Tyre development continued at an unabated pace. A scary development were the high wings of the late 60s, which looked bizarre and often detached themselves with devastating effect, the first sign of significant aerodynamics. Tyrrell tried a six-wheeler with 4 fronts. March and Williams experimented with 4 rears. Next came the sensational skirted ground effect cars. They had so much grip, the drivers had to adjust their driving styles to new limits. The cars were fast but scarily inconsistent, and they were soon banned, as was the radical Brabham fan car, which tried to recreate the effect. Generally, they're all pretty similar now. First, the fundamentals. The car must have no more than 4 wheels and tyres, which have a maximum width and diameter restriction. Those 4 must be placed external to the bodywork when in plan view. Only 2 may be steered, and only 2 may be driven. The driver must face forward, and he cannot be enclosed or have his feet in front of the axle centre line. The fuel tank has to be between the back of the driver and the front of the engine. The safety cell, which we call the monocoque, is carefully defined in size, and there are 2 templates which must fit through certain parts of the cockpit area. The designer can choose the distance between the front and rear wheels, the wheelbase. Once that's been sorted out, all of the other dimensions are defined as a distance from a number of imaginary lines. That's the front and rear axle centre line, the floor or reference plane, and the centre line of the car. The total width or track of the suspension must not exceed 1.8 metres. And within the wheelbase, the bodywork must not exceed 1.4 metres. To simplify that, I'm going to create boxes to represent the numerous regulations which define the silhouette of the car. The red vertical shading represents the centre line of the car. The blue flat zone is technically the reference plane, but let's call it the floor. Sign up your driver, give him a fuel cell for a rucksack, and throw a few $100 million at the engine and gearbox departments. Now you can bolt on the rear suspension, drive shafts and wheels. We will then install a cooling system, and moving along the car, finally we need a front suspension and steering package. This gives us the rolling mechanical layout of a Formula One car. It doesn't look much until we add the skin or bodywork, which is mostly defined by the rules. The driver safety cell is shown in green and is the backbone of the car. The orange area must be kept clear for the driver. The blue triangle represents a maximum height of the bodywork, which must also be symmetrical. Now for the imaginary rule boxes I mentioned. These are the no bodywork zones, starting with the pink box under the front wing. In the oblong blue boxes, there must be no bodywork, but some suspension is allowed. In the purple and light green areas, again there must be no bodywork or aerodynamic parts other than the rear view mirrors. The critical dark green area in front of the rear wheels is kept clear to help control and reduce downforce. The 6 orange and yellow zones force the designers into a specific rear wing and underfloor shape and position. It's complicated and restrictive, but there's still plenty of nooks and crannies for the designers to apply their trade. Now let's remove those boxes to reveal the finished article. Painted in a single colour, this could be any of today's Formula One cars. Safety is a key factor in the look of the car too. For example, there must be a rollover bar just behind the driver's head. Most of the car will then be crash tested to rigorous levels. For example, the nose will be crammed into a wall and then twisted too. Inevitably, key areas like the side pods will need a certain amount of material to absorb the energy and will therefore look the same. So that's why Formula One cars tend to look so similar, but the beauty is in the exquisite detail where the designers and aerodynamicists use their skills and knowledge in the myriad of small areas where they do have some freedom. It seems, whatever the regulations, they have an effective and elegant solution to the problem.
And next weekend, during our coverage of the Hungarian Grand Prix, Martin will unravel the secrets of aerodynamics. You know, all the teams here along the paddock fight their own individual battles, and this has been a very significant weekend for Minardi, whose cars qualified ahead of the Jordans. An instant triumph for their new double Dutch formation.
Robert Doornbos has fitted pretty comfortably into Patrick Friesacher's seat at Minardi. The Dutchman, formerly third driver at Jordan, didn't even start racing until he was 17. Aided by aerodynamic improvements to the Minardi, he makes his debut for an impressive 17th on the grid.
Not bad. I'm in front of my ex-teammates, so that's quite good. I will say hello to them on the grid tomorrow, and yeah, look forward to a nice race, a new adventure.
His former team's qualifying quest wasn't quite so exciting. Narain Karthikeyan slipped up, then gave up on his qualifying lap. Thiago Monteiro, who set a new record for race finishes in his rookie season, has reliability worries.
We found a small difference from car to car, and it's not 100% exactly what it is, but with reliability we should be okay. We're not sufficiently worried to change any of the major parts of the car, so we should be okay.
Williams appears to be finally getting a grip on its Mark II car. Qualifying saw a dramatic improvement on the team's pace last time out at Silverstone.
We will see how the strategy pans out, but we're ahead of the people we want. Of course, we want to be further up, but ahead of the Red Bulls and a couple of Toyotas, obviously. So, you know, they're the guys who've got to try and race.
Two teams have broken ranks and signed up to a new Concord agreement. Jordan and Red Bull have joined Ferrari and inked their approval to the document which will govern the commercial side of Formula One from 2008. The remaining 7 are still holding out.
There's a lot of good work that is being done by the manufacturers and the teams, but they're coming to a point that they're deciding to vote on issues, and I felt it was right and appropriate that Red Bull declare their position for the future.
Meanwhile, Red Bull and the other 6 Michelin teams have had the guilty verdicts issued by the FIA following the US Grand Prix cancelled after presenting new photographic evidence to the sport's governing body. Relations between the teams and FIA boss Max Mosley, which had been at an all-time low, now appear to be on the mend.
As we see Ralf Schumacher going out, Mike, we're going to be hearing from you from the pit wall during the race, but what do you think, A, with the rain, and B, with the possibility of a first corner pile-up?
Well, I don't think there's going to be any rain. Our forecast said that it was going to stop raining about now and won't rain anymore. First corner, well, it can happen at any race, but I'm sure they'll be all right.
OK, thanks very much, Mike. Back to you, Jim.
And their forecast appears to be spot on. Toyota based not so far away in Cologne. How about that first corner, Tony? What are the problems there?
It's very, very difficult. It's been reprofiled slightly with the new circuit, but if you remember, Michael Schumacher about 4 years ago had a problem with his transmission. He was slow off the line and caused an almighty crash behind him. There's been so many incidents we saw earlier on from 03 with Kimi Räikkönen going off when Barrichello had a slow start. It's very, very tight. It's very exciting, very dramatic track. The lap is relatively short, and if the aerodynamics allow it, and this is what I'm fascinated to see, we should get some very good overtaking into the hairpin.
Let us hope so. Just over half an hour to go to the start. Luck to you all. Now, we are hoping for great things from Jenson Button. He is up front alongside pole sitter Kimi Räikkönen. Again, though, Button's future is unclear. BAR want him to stay. Williams insist they have a cast-iron contract to employ him next season. Ted can bring you right up to date.
It's a real head-scratcher deciding who to drive for. This time last year, Jenson Button decided he'd had enough of BAR and, despite a run of good results, wanted to leave and join Williams. The lawyers got involved and BAR kept him for this season. But Jenson was clear about his future.
I want to be challenging for the World Championship. That is my aim, and I think Williams is the team. Williams is the team I'm going to do it with, and Williams is the team that give me that possibility.
Jenson's Williams contract says that the only way BAR can keep him was if they score more than 75% of the points for the World Championship leaders by the end of August. That's not going to happen. At the moment, BAR have just under 9%, and this weekend Button said the car just isn't quick enough to win. But Williams are currently underperforming. Are they a good team to go to right now? We asked Williams drivers past and present.
Williams hasn't been good for the last 7 years. I mean, that has been the reason why I left, basically, because I believe that Williams is not the team for the future. Having said that, if Frank and Patrick at one stage decide to maybe get the right people on board and to change a few things around and whatever, then they might be successful again.
He committed for the team 2 years ago. It's the same way when I committed to McLaren. I committed to McLaren, and whether they're going to be quick or not, I was going to come here because that's what I wanted to do, and that's why Jenson made the same choice. Nobody asked him, you have to sign that contract. It was his choice. For a surprise of him, the team didn't perform.
Well, if it's up to Jenson, then, he's lapped me in the last 2 races, so it's, I don't know what how excited about he is still, if he still is, wants to come to Williams, but obviously it's his decision, and I'd say the chances are quite low, unfortunately.
So whose grass is greener? Well, Honda have committed to BAR long term. That includes a works engine, and the whole team worships the ground Jenson walks on. On the downside, they've suffered a nightmare 2005 season. They've got tobacco funding, which will have to be replaced eventually, and BAR are also yet to win a single race. That's Williams' strength. They've won 9 Constructors' Championships. They've had 4 podiums this season, which is more than BAR, and they run 2 on-site wind tunnels. On the downside, Williams currently have no engine deal for next year. They've had problems with this year's car design, and next year they won't have full manufacturer support. But does Jenson actually have a choice? Listen to Sir Frank Williams.
We do have an existing contract for Jenson with him for 06. We fully expect him to arrive at Williams at the due period of time.
Well, we've made it very clear we'd like Jensen to stay with us, and that's an open-ended offer. We'd like to have him till the end of his career. He's that good. We really do believe he can be world champion, so we're prepared to back him.
So nothing about the decision of BMW to buy Sauber, has that changed anything as regards Jensen's position?
There are no conditions regarding engine partner in the existing JB contract.
What do you think's changed within the team that's now made him want to stay here?
I think the biggest thing is Honda ownership of the team. Christmas last year, Honda bought just under half of our team. That really does give us fantastic security for the future. Honda are a company that's won the World Championship, I think, 11 times before. So, it's not an idle threat to say that this team can win the World Championship. And I think that's hugely attractive to Jensen.
So it's Williams who own Jensen's contract. But when you ask him who he wants to drive for, you'll get this response.
I'm not going to comment on that at the moment. It's something that I can't be talking about at the moment. I'm here to race this weekend and do the best job I can, and it's not a place to be talking about it.
So as far as you're concerned, Jensen will be driving for Williams next year?
That's affirmative, yes.
Is there anything that will change that? Has Jensen expressed a willingness not to come to Williams?
There is nothing that will change that.
Sir Frank Williams says Jensen Button is coming to them, no question about it. Tony Jardine, how do you see it?
Well, I think it goes back to the Contract Recognition Board, and I think he's right that is solid and watertight. That's a legacy of previous management, not the current management under Richard Goddard. But I'd also say, from Jensen's point of view, next year is a new ballpark. It's new V8 engines, new chassis, you start again. Williams have the facilities to do that. But of course, he is in a dilemma, and that's why he can't speak about anything at all.
Williams have a winning pedigree. BAR have never won a Grand Prix.
Yeah, it's true, but if Frank has to look at the economics, he's got to think that if he has to buy engines, maybe 12 or 15 million pounds and a reputed 8 million pounds a year for this man, Jensen Button, and his salary, could he afford it in the scheme of things? He may be able to.
The brolly up over Jensen Button, starting on the front row. Can he get back onto the Hockenheim podium? Last year, he flew from 13th on the grid to runner-up in the race. It was the drive of his life. An action replay would be ideal. It is overcast. There is drizzle in the air. The crowd, 110,000. The start of the German Grand Prix is just over 15 minutes away. Looking back 5 years, Rubens Barrichello won the first race of his career right here. Bit of a contrast today. He's back 15th on the grid. Here's Barrichello with Louise Goodman.
Well, Rubens Barrichello starting this race 15th on the grid, but you started 18th here in 2000 and still went on to win. So it can be done, but it's going to take a bit of luck, isn't it?
Well, it's going to take a little luck, some safety cars, and somebody pop into the racetrack to help myself. I mean, nowadays we have to acknowledge that the teams as McLaren and Renault, they're going very fast. Everybody knows that I'm on different strategy than Michael in terms of tires, in terms of everything. So it's just I have to see what I can get on. I mean, to be honest, today I don't hope for rain because my tire shouldn't work on the rain. Apart from that, just pray and drive.
That's unusual for you because you normally love it and do really well when it's a bit wet, don't you?
Yeah, but if it's just this kind of a weather, which is not wetty enough, if the rain comes down, then it's okay. I just have the proper tires. But to race with the grooves on the wet, then it won't be a fantastic.
Is that the same kind of problem for everybody? How difficult is it for the drivers when it's just damp as opposed to absolutely pouring down?
Well, the damp condition, I mean, it could touch a white line and go off, so you have to pay attention to that. The condition of the tire itself, if it's grainy or so on a damp condition, it's very, very difficult. That's okay, that's quite attractive. The problem is having the tire that I have right now.
Thanks, Rubens.
Thanks very much indeed, Martin. A brief glimpse of Juan Pablo Montoya there. Super crowd in that Mercedes grandstand. The stadium section always gives a terrific climax to every lap here at this Grand Prix. The Jordans behind the Minardis right at the back of the grid there. And Juan Pablo Montoya, well, Tony, he could make this race, Juan Pablo. He's got a magnificent car underneath him. He's down the back because of the mistake in qualifying. Can he do it? Can he crash through the field? I probably shouldn't say crash, should I?
Yeah, I mean, I think he could, and he is exciting. But Fernando Alonso there has made comments about Juan Pablo's driving and has said he's not comfortable in close quarters with Juan Pablo. If Juan Pablo gets up alongside him, we could see a ding-dong battle there. He said he doesn't necessarily trust him. He said you tend to end up off on the grass when you're against Juan Pablo, unlike against Kimi Räikkönen, whose car you're looking at there. He's raced against him in karting. He said he trusts him, and they duel very closely, but he trusts him implicitly.
Just looking at the Renaults, they say they have a much better car in the race than they do in qualifying.
Well, that is the chilling prospect for the McLaren drivers, because they said, look, you know, really the car is not that good on the one-lap qualifying. Fernando Alonso lost it in the first corner. He was unsure about his braking into the second corner. He said, I'm just glad to be in third and on the clean side of the grid. But he said, the race is different. The car will be very strong.
Tony, thank you very much indeed. Here is the scenario then. Rain is in the air. David Coulthard, runner-up here 3 times. His Red Bull has to charge from outside the top 10. Silverstone winner Montoya, he is starting last. A few stretches from Trulli there. There's Klein, Sato still without a point. Germany's Heidfeld and the BMW Williams teammate Webber all ahead of DC. And so is Michael Schumacher, going for an unlikely and unprecedented 4th win here. Those Renaults side by side on the second row. Alonso so relaxed and chatty, and Fisichella eyeing a podium finish. Up front, the speechless Räikkönen, the odds-on favourite next to Jenson Button, saying the BAR can't win, but Button does extraordinary things here at Hockenheim. The German Grand Prix is speeding your way. ITV Sport is at the German Grand Prix. It is very overcast, but just about dry at the moment. We have reached the 12th of 19 rounds in F1 2005. Poised in the Hockenheim commentary box, Martin Brundle and James Allen.
Thank you, Jim. Hello, everybody. Well, just 8 races to go in the World Championship, and with Michael Schumacher 34 points behind Fernando Alonso and Ferrari still struggling for pace, it's starting to look very much that we'll have a new world champion this year. The first new name on the trophy in the 21st century. Will it be this man, Kimi Räikkönen, or will it be Fernando Alonso, currently leading the World Championship? It's a fabulous duel between these two, but with Alonso 26 points clear of Räikkönen, he can afford to play the percentage game in these races, not take any risks. Räikkönen, though, has to win. It's as simple as that. And he could really do with his teammate taking points off Alonso here this afternoon as well. But unlike Silverstone 2 weeks ago, where he covered himself in glory, Juan Pablo Montoya is in the doghouse here at Hockenheim, having crashed on the final corner of his qualifying lap when it looked as though an all-McLaren lockout on the front row of the grid seemed assured. He's changed his engine. He'll start from the back of the grid today. But this is certainly a track on which you can overtake. I don't think he'll trouble this man, Fernando Alonso, up in 3rd place on the grid, but I think he will certainly be challenging for a podium here this afternoon. Michael Schumacher and Jenson Button here as well will be in contention for that, along with Giancarlo Fisichella as well. Alonso certainly took the fight to McLaren at Silverstone, and it looks like he'll do it again today. So the first head-to-head, hopefully, between Räikkönen and Alonso on the racetrack looks like it might be on the cards, although in recent weeks it seems that McLaren have got a bit of an edge in terms of single lap pace. There's nothing much to choose between them on long race runs. There is Michael Schumacher, the expression one of calmness as always from the 7-time world champion. He knows that 5th place slot on the grid owes a lot to a superb lap yesterday that he drove. It also owes a lot to the softer Bridgestone tyre and to a lighter fuel load. We think he'll stop around about lap 17 here this afternoon, first stop, whereas Alonso, Räikkönen will be going perhaps as late as 23, 25 laps into this Grand Prix, and only stopping twice to Schumacher's 3 times. The 2 Williams you see up the field as well, Webber and Heidfeld, we believe they will stop 3 times this afternoon. And there you can see the second half of the grid. Red Bull Racing challenging the top 10. Christian Klein is 10th, Coulthard 11th. Toyota not quite on the pace here this weekend, we've seen from them recently. It's 2 Saubers are quite competitive, they believe, in race trim. Rubens Barrichello in the Ferrari coming through from 15th. And what about Montoya there, Martin, on the back of the grid? A lot of work to do this afternoon. I think we'll see some fireworks from him, though.
Yes, he's got a lot of work to do. He needs a solid top 10 finish today, and he's got to be expecting at least some points, hasn't he? We saw Jensen come through from 13th last year. I mean, it's not inconceivable. Juan Pablo could be up to 12th or 13th at the end of the first lap if it's half tidy. You said to me as I was walking up to the com box, you saw them on the grid. You saw Montoya basically trying to tell them what he's going to do as he goes around and looking for some support, or maybe just trying to intimidate the guys at the back of the field. Luckily, I think for everybody here, there's a big runoff area on the outside of turn 1 that can almost be an advantage. We saw little Rosberg this morning, baby Rosberg in the GP2 race, get pushed right outside and actually make up 2 or 3 places out there while the rest of them were tripping over each other. So it's worth Montoya taking a bit of a gamble, I think, in these first few laps. And he's got a much faster car until he gets to sort of midfield, 9th, 10th, I would have thought. Then he'll have to really start working hard and picking them off one by one.
Well, we saw at Silverstone 2 weeks ago how difficult it was to follow cars through fast corners. It made it difficult to overtake on what's traditionally been quite a good overtaking circuit, Silverstone. Here at Hockenheim, it's a very different scenario. We've got a slow corner leading out to a long straight into a very tight hairpin, a 45-mile-an-hour hairpin. We'll see it in a moment on the parade lap. And that means you can follow through the very tight corner, you can get good acceleration out of it, and you can run up the inside or around the outside, if you like, into the hairpin and make the pass. You really can overtake in this racetrack, as Jenson Button will tell you, having made his way through from well outside the top 10 last year on the grid to 2nd place at the finish. Here we are then in this spectacular code to the cheers of Schumacher glory in the past. They've come here, hopefully, thinking he might be able to make something of his difficult situation at the moment. Ferrari are testing like mad. They're trying new tyre compounds, they're trying new aerodynamic solutions, and the new aerodynamic pack on the car does seem to have made it a little bit more stable, but the speed, Martin, is still not there. The grip is still not there.
No, we think Michael Schumacher has taken a big gamble on his softer Bridgestone tyre today. We saw him in free practice with bald front tyres, and then he locked them up because he lost so much grip and burned a big hole in them. So he's maybe even gambling that it could rain through the Grand Prix. But, you know, they had to take that decision at 9 o'clock on Saturday morning, so that was a very big gamble if that's correct. But I think he's gone for well, what have I got to lose? We're not competitive again this weekend, but at least he got himself just ahead of that squabbling midfield pack. I'm expecting to see some great racing down to that hairpin because, yes, you're right, they haven't been being able to follow too well around fast corners, but turn 2 is really slow and easy, bunches the cars up, and they've got a drag race down to the hairpin, and that could help Montoya big time today.
Lovely camera coming out of this hairpin then, expecting some good action from there as cars go side by side down towards the fast kink of turn 7 into turn 8, which is another slow corner here. That's the new grandstand, opened just a few years ago. You can see Kimi and Juan Pablo affiliation there. It's Mercedes-Benz employees and guests only in there, as far as I understand. Go Kimi, goes Juan. That's a nice bit of support to see when you're driving around the racetrack.
Yeah, we should have some things like that at Silverstone. It's a no-brainer. Mercedes put it up, pay for it, get tickets for 5 years to give to their employees or sell off, and then the circuit ends up with a beautiful grandstand. It should be easily done.
A lot of government money goes into this racetrack here in Germany, local government money as well. It's a funny sort of place, Hockenheim. Just 20,000 people live in this small town. All the houses are virtually the same, little boxes alongside each other. We drive through them on the way to the racetrack each morning. It's a strange sort of place, a sleepy little town for most of the year. But once a year, 110,000 people descend on it to make a lot of noise with air horns and racing engines.
I had a troll through the paddock and the merchandise area this morning just to have a look, and it was fascinating. So much merchandise available, but there was the only place that had a queue and people around it was the Michael Schumacher stand. The Fernando Alonso stand had tumbleweed coming through it. There was nobody there at all. They're only here to watch one man, aren't they?
They really, really are. It's like Silverstone in the days of Mansellmania. Just caught a shot there of the tail of the field. You'd have seen the Minardis going through. Perhaps, though, eagle-eyed amongst you would have spotted an unfamiliar helmet. Robert Dornbos becomes the 6th rookie to make his Grand Prix debut. There he is. So a helmet similar to Michael Schumacher's in the early days of his career. He's doing a good job for Minardi. He drove a little bit with them last year in the 3rd car, switched over from Jordan's 3rd car this year to a race drive at Minardi. He'll be in the team, I'm told, for the rest of the season, and and he's certainly pushing Christian Albers.
Montoya right at the back, giving his rear tyres death to get as much temperature as he can. He knows he can launch from that position.
Raikkonen on the right, Button on the left. 67 laps at Hockenheim. Go! Terrific start by both the Renaults. Look at Webber as well, he's looking racy. Alonso tries to get Raikkonen at the start. Button's down to third, make that fourth as Michael Schumacher goes around the outside. One of the Williams has got tangled up with one of the Toyotas and slow back onto the racetrack as well. Button's trying to get his place back from Michael Schumacher, and it's really ding-dong stuff at the front. That's Felipe Massa as well in the mix, and look at the jostling going on.
And contact at the back there. Who is that? It's the BAR of Sato has lost its front wing. Montoya 4 or 5 places up already, and so Raikkonen leads from Alonso. Michael Schumacher with a light car, very fast starting. Button in the wars in turn 1, but stayed out of trouble. Now at the back, I think we saw a Sauber climbing up onto Barrichello's Ferrari. All the action at the back of the field.
And side by side into the stadium. Look at this. Inside the Renault goes Massa in the Sauber. What a tremendous move that was. And the Williams are in the mix as well.
Coulthard's had a stunning start. We'll see where he's up to at least 8. That's clear, and he's behind Fisichella. Fisichella's had a poor getaway. He had a good getaway, but just ended up in so much trouble on that first lap. Button is 4th then. So Raikkonen leads from Alonso and Michael Schumacher.
Yep, Raikkonen leads, Alonso 2nd, Michael Schumacher is 3rd, Button is 4th. Nick Heidfeld has had a good start as well. He's in 5th place. Fisichella down into 6th place as they come across the line. There you can see Coulthard, in fact, has got past Fisichella. Massa as well. Klein is 9th, 10th is Ralf Schumacher, 11th then Juan Pablo Montoya at the end of the first lap from 20th on the grid. Sato comes into the pits. We saw him losing his nose cone. There he is. And Trulli as well. We saw a Toyota at the back of our screen. Both of them in the pits. Mark Webber was the Williams we saw having problems early on. He has dropped down to 20th place. He's touring very, very slowly around at the moment. An all-action start.
This is down at turn 2 early on, and contact there between Montoya and the Sauber of what I would imagine is Villeneuve at that point. Up at the front, it's all pretty clear, isn't it? And easy, but loads of contact. In comes Mark Webber. So Sato, Trulli and Mark Webber all pitting at the end of lap 1.
Here comes the Aussie. He said he wasn't promising Lance Armstrong levels of performance today. He certainly wasn't anticipating a crash on the opening lap. Webber 6th on the grid, a promising platform, but it's all gone wrong for him once again in the race, whilst teammate Heidfeld seems to be thriving at the moment in 5th place, coming through to complete the end of the second lap. Raikkonen still leading, and he is really trying to pull away now. Half a second faster on that lap than Alonso Tekravitz.
Yeah, down at Williams, Mark Webber is out of the Grand Prix. He's obviously been hit on the right rear. They've just been wobbling it around. The suspension is broken. They can't do anything to fix it. He's out of the car, retired from the German Grand Prix.
And Barrichello and Villeneuve got some air there. He took off over Barrichello's wheel, lost an awful lot of positions as well. Jacques Villeneuve down into 15th place behind the 2 Minardis of Christian Albers and Robert Dornbos.
Yes, that was a replay, obviously, of the end of the first lap, down at the hairpin. Contact we could see at the back of the screen. Raikkonen leads comfortably then. Championship leader Alonso is, I would imagine, very happy in 2nd. Button, he said he would expect to finish 4th today. Well, that's where he is at the moment, but I'm sure he's got more fuel than Michael Schumacher on board. Heidfeld up to 5th. Coulthard from 11th to 6th. Massa, Fisichella, Klein. Montoya up to 10th. He's already passed Ralf Schumacher. Thought that might take him a bit more time than that. This is working beautifully for Juan Pablo Montoya.
Yep, he's going to have to worry about how much fuel the cars in front of him are carrying. Christian Klein, particularly Giancarlo Fisichella, who's down in 8th place. Certainly a very fast car that would appear to be out of position there after some jostling on the opening lap. Fisichella dropping from 4th on the grid down to 8th. It just isn't working out for Fisichella this year, is it? After that great victory in Australia, it's been really, really difficult for him.
I suspect they'll try and get Webber's car back together to put him out on the racetrack. Good for the fans and good for him, and of course it may get him a slightly better qualifying slot next weekend in Hungary, which is critical.
Absolutely. Look at Montoya though, he's got past Christian Klein. We're not really following Montoya, which is a little bit frustrating because these guys at the front are quite spaced out. Montoya's obviously really making tracks here. You'll see him coming to your frame. There you are, at the top of your picture now, homing in on the back of Giancarlo Fisichella. That's 8th place. That's the
closing, please.
Into the stadium then, and once again Jacques Villeneuve in the wars. Looks like one of the Minardis he's collided with. He was behind Dornbos on the racetrack, so I wonder whether that's him. It does look like Dornbos that he's collided with. Yes, it is. Look at that. Just tagged him.
Yeah, it looks like Dornbos probably braked earlier than Jacques was expecting, but it looks for all the world as if Jacques plain ran into the back of him. Hopefully we'll see a longer replay of that. Raikkonen's lead was 2.5 seconds at the end of lap 4, and Alonso is a further 2.5 ahead of Michael Schumacher. Button in 4th, 7 seconds off the lead now. Just coming into your picture back of frame.
Yeah, Raikkonen taking an even ½ second a lap out of Fernando Alonso to build a 2.5 second cushion then. Here comes Villeneuve and Dornbos both into the pits after that contact partway round the lap. So Jacques Villeneuve having another tricky afternoon here for the Sauber. They're quite optimistic on Friday after the free practice session. Qualifying yesterday didn't go particularly well for them, 13th and 14th. Villeneuve rejoins, but certainly Felipe Massa's going very strongly, his teammate. He's currently in 7th.
Well, we've often recently complimented them, haven't we, on their supreme driving skills on lap 1, but today is almost like, OK, we've got loads of runoff area here, let's just go for it. But a lot of clumsy manoeuvres going on. Raikkonen leads at the end of lap 5 from Alonso by 2.6 seconds.
Lap 8 of the German Grand Prix at Hockenheim after a barnstormer of a start with all kinds of jostling and action for position. Kimi Raikkonen is leading the Grand Prix by 4 seconds from Fernando Alonso. Raikkonen just did a 1:15.638 on his last lap. That last lap of 1:15.9 just gone through. But that's a tremendous pace. Alonso is responding though, a 1:15.8 from him on that last lap. He wants to keep his championship rival in sight. Michael Schumacher is 3rd for Ferrari. He's lapping in the mid 1:16s at the moment, almost 10 seconds behind Raikkonen. There's Jenson Button as well, going strongly in 4th. He's also lapping in the mid to high 1:16s, but he's carrying more fuel than Michael Schumacher, we believe. So that's going to be interesting to see how that goes. Nick Heidfeld is 5th in the Williams, quite a bit slower than the 2 cars in front of him. David Coulthard doing very well in 6th place from 11th on the grid. Felipe Massa is 7th. Giancarlo Fisichella has an important job now though, Martin. He's got Juan Montoya behind him, and from a championship point of view, from a drivers' championship and constructors' championship point of view, Renault versus McLaren, Fisichella has a big job to do as they lap Robert Dornbos.
He has, but what's surprising me is that Montoya's got within that famous 0.7 of a second turbulent air zone. He's going nowhere all of a sudden. He's in the 1:17s. His teammate is in the 1:15s out in clear air. So Montoya's completely stalled out. Fisichella may have a job of keeping him behind him, but he's not having to work too hard at the moment.
Well, Mike Gascoigne, I'm delighted to say, the technical director of the Toyota team, joins us for the first of his inserts from the pit. Well, welcome, Mike. First of all, one of your drivers involved, Jarno Trulli, in an incident at the start. What exactly happened?
Yeah, well, he seemed he got boxed on the outside of the first corner, and then when the Williams had to run wide, he had to go right with him, and then he got mixed up in everything. So it's unfortunate. We felt we had a good strategy for this race. We're running fairly long, stopping on lap 24 and 25 with the 2 cars. So, but we didn't need to have the problem on the first lap, obviously, which has really made life difficult for us.
What did you have to change, Mike, when he came in?
Basically had a puncher on the front left, so no real damage, just a front left puncher. And he's now bottled up behind Sato, unfortunately, which is making life pretty difficult for him. But Ralph, we think, is going to run quite a lot later than the group of cars in front of him. Heidfeld, Coulthard, and Clean will be coming in earlier. So we're hoping we can jump them at the first stop.
Quite a mixture today, it seems, Mike, of cars on 2 and 3 stops. The 2 Williams seem to have gone for the 3, Michael Schumacher as well. Why do you think they went that route, and do you think it'll work out for them?
Well, I think they had to. They've not had good pace either in qualifying or the race, and they had to run light fuel to get themselves involved in the race. But certainly we're hoping our strategy should mean we can get past them at the first stop.
How can you be so sure about these other guys' fuel stops, Mike?
Well, really, we analysed, all the laps they do over the weekend and what they run on Friday when they do their long runs. So, we can really judge whether they've got more or less fuel on board for qualifying. So we're fairly certain that Heidfeld and will be stopping around 15, 16.
Now, we've seen, obviously, Toyota in recent races, Mike, having a fairly slow start to the Grand Prix, but get a lot quicker as the Grand Prix goes on. What's your feeling on how you're preparing here?
Well, I think with the cool track temperatures, we're not going to be suffering from overheating the rear tyres, which has been a problem for us the last couple of races. So we think the balance should be pretty similar to it was yesterday. Track temperatures are the same. So we think if we can get some clear air, that we'll have a good race pace.
Final question for the moment, Mike. Weather, what's the latest on it?
We don't think it's going to rain at all. There might be a few spots, but that's less and less likely. But there is rain coming in, but it'll be after the race.
It'll be there for the D-Rig. Thanks very much for the moment, Mike Gascoigne, Technical Director of Toyota. We'll speak to him again a little bit later on. Always great to get an insight from the pit wall as the race is going on, from the people who make the strategic decisions. On lap 12 then, Kimi Raikkonen just set the fastest lap of the Grand Prix, 1:15.637. He is absolutely flying here at Hockenheim, ahead of Fernando Alonso, who doesn't want to let him get away. 4.1 seconds the gap of Raikkonen to Alonso in second. Michael Schumacher's third, Button is fourth, Heidfeld is fifth, Coulthard 20 seconds behind now in sixth, Massa 7th, 8th Fisichella, 9th Montoya, and 10th is Christian Klien. Lap 15 of 67 here at Hockenheim in Germany. This is the scrap for 8th, 9th and 10th places. Giancarlo Fisichella in 8th was hit by Takuma Sato on the opening lap. The Renault nothing like as quick as his teammate Fernando Alonso, who currently runs in second place. 1.5 seconds a lap slower, in fact. He's got a problem with that car, the damage from the impact with Sato. He's got Montoya behind him, who doesn't at the moment seem to be able to catch him and pass him. And Klien, at the moment, is crowding out Montoya. I'm not quite sure what's going on with Montoya, but Louise Goodman has some news for us.
Yeah, we thought he was out of the race. I think Mark Webber thought he was out of the race as well, because he did get out of the car. But on closer inspection, the team found that it was just a small item, they won't tell me exactly what, but something on the rear right suspension that they were able to fix. So they have now replaced that. They've got Mark back out again. As we've seen on numerous occasions this year, the team's just desperate to get their driver out if they can, to try and improve their start position or their running order in the qualifying session for the following race.
Yeah, it'll be just the tie rod that controls which way the rear wheel is pointing. That's pretty much the only thing you can change that quickly. So good news for them. And the teams have realised a few years ago actually that the suspension's not only got to be good for performance, but they've started really beefing the cars up, and that's why we see so much contact and just a new front wing and they're back on their way again or something like that. So I think by making the suspensions much stronger than they actually need to be from a performance point of view, as Heidfeld is the first man to pit for a scheduled stop. Ted has more news.
Yes, Heidfeld, good stop so far, but I've been into Renault and they think that Fisichella has damaged his rear wing end plate. They're having a very close look at it on the telly, and every time he comes past the pits, but they can see on the telemetry he's lost quite a bit of rear downforce, so that's what's hurting his lap time.
Yes, it's the flat panel on the side of the rear wing that plays a key role in making the under tray and rear wing function properly. But what I'm confused about here is Montoya. He's actually almost falling back into the clutches of Klien more than he is looking at the back of it, and that was Klien actually having a bit of a look at him. So he's got a lot of oversteer. If you watch Montoya, he's struggling with the back of the car, and we know he had that in qualifying because he ended up off the road. But he's got a car that should be going 2 seconds a lap faster than this. He just can't go anywhere, and this is absolute confirmation for me, James, that they have to do something to change these cars fundamentally for next year, because this is the one circuit where you could follow, you could overtake, and these 05 regulations have just negated that, and I feel very strongly about that too. But Montoya then going absolutely nowhere, lapping a couple of seconds adrift of his teammate, and we know he's got the same speed around here from all the free practice. But Raikkonen is doing 2 seconds a lap slower than last year too, because they had the benefit of 4 sets of new tyres during the Grand Prix last year. This afternoon they've got to hang on to 1 set.
Well, the regulation change is designed to slow the cars down, to make the cars safer. They were getting very, very quick indeed, and they've made the tyres last a whole Grand Prix and the qualifying session. They've raised the nose and taken away, the idea was to take away between 25 and 30% of the downforce the cars had in 2004. By the time the clever boys and the engineers had whittled it away to this point in the season, they reckon it's now perhaps as little as 5 or 6% only that's been lost. There's Jacques Villeneuve getting out of the way of Michael Schumacher, but we're in a phase really of consultation and discussion about rules for Formula One in the future. Anytime now, as Carter Kayan makes his pit stop for Jordan Anytime now we're expecting a document from the teams and the manufacturers and what they would like the rules to be in the future. The FIA are working with Ferrari and others to come up with some plans as well. Hopefully we're on a converging path, but what you're talking about, Martin, is something a bit more urgent than that. It's addressing the fact that these 2005 rules have made it very difficult for one car to follow another. It's not encouraging good wheel-to-wheel racing, which is what everybody wants to see. And I don't know whether it's possible to change things for next year. Certainly we've got a big engine change for next year, going from V10 engines to V8s. Car incident involving car number 20 under investigation. That's Dornbos.
Yes, but it's all the paraphernalia they've had to bolt onto the upper surfaces of the bodywork. You've said they've recovered the downforce, James. I think what happens is all of those bits and pieces that we can see that they're beautiful, they're exquisite in the way that they're made and created and dreamt up. But I think they're badly affected by turbulence, and the drivers are therefore struggling. The track's not changed, and we saw in the GP2 races loads of great overtaking, didn't we, in the next category down, where obviously the cars are less aerodynamically sensitive and far less complex, it has to be said.
Yep, well, we'll see as the race unfolds, but this track, as we were saying earlier on, has a slow corner turn 2, 68 miles an hour apex speed, leading out onto a big long straight where they peak out at around 200 miles an hour before breaking down for the hairpin at 45 miles an hour. So it's slow corner onto long straight. Raikkonen's on it right now into long, slow hairpin, and that ought to be able to encourage overtaking. The aerodynamic effect of one car following another shouldn't be too great through here, but even today Montoya does seem to be Fisichella, who has just set his fastest first sector of the Grand Prix so far, Giancarlo Fisichella. So if he is struggling with the car, it's starting to come back to his way of liking it, although having said that, he's still 6 or 7 tenths of a second slower than this man, teammate Fernando Alonso, currently running in second place, coming up to lap Mark Webber, who was involved in collisions on the opening lap, damaged the rear suspension, had some repairs and is back out again.
Yes, Webber's going quite slowly, so there may still be some other stuff like that. He's hoping that he'll pick up a few places at the tail end of the field to give himself a better qualifying slot next weekend in Hungary, where the track is traditionally very dirty in qualifying conditions. But at the moment, no retirements from this Grand Prix, so it's giving him no advantage at all. He's 10 laps behind.
Well, Michael Schumacher, we expected to see him pit around lap 17. He hasn't come in yet. Ferrari mechanics are not, as far as I can tell, out in the pit lane, so he's going further into this Grand Prix than everybody imagined. So that qualifying lap yesterday of Michael Schumacher's really was something quite special. One of the things he's got to worry about, though, Martin, is his tyres, because in free practice his tyre was bald, wasn't it, after a few laps, and he's gone with the softer option here.
Yeah, track is nice and cool, he'll be rubbering in, his pace is good, you're right, he's gone a lot further than we imagined he would, so we were absolutely wrong about that. Raikkonen's lead now up to 8.6 seconds. 2 Brits in 4th and 5th. Button 4th, Coulthard 5th, both of them going very nicely indeed. Massa pits from what was 7th, and Klein pits from what was 10th.
Well, that's what Mike Gascoigne was talking about. Massa, he was hoping would come in. Ralf Schumacher, his man in the Toyota, was in 9th place, just 3 seconds behind Massa before he came into the pits. So that's going to work out very nicely for Ralf Schumacher and push him up into the points-paying positions. And Massa's got his work cut out here for the rest of the afternoon. He's taken on a fair bit of fuel, though, so he's obviously going to be stopping with a longer middle stint. There is Michael Schumacher, just looking at his tyres, a bit of a long shot to be able to see any signs of undue wear. We are after only 21 laps into this Grand Prix. And here comes the BAR of Jenson Button into the pit lane. This is a little earlier than we expected for him. So Schumacher's job yesterday and Button's put a little bit more in perspective by how early Button's coming into the pits.
Yeah, I thought he may have gone 2 or 3 laps further. Coulthard pits as well. He was just behind Button on the road. There were a few seconds in it, so I don't expect any position changes there. Michael Schumacher carries on in 3rd place. That'll move Fisichella up to 4th then, and Montoya up to 5th. If they can all 2-stop from lap 20 though, can't they? So they're pretty much on the same strategy.
Mike Gascoigne, technical director of Toyota, joins us again. Mike, it's worked out, as you said. The Coulthard, Klein, Massa have all pitted, and your man Ralf has been able to benefit.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, this is the crucial part of the race now for Ralf. He's got 5 laps to his stop. and he's really got to push on now, and hopefully we can get enough time with the other cars being heavy with the full fuel load now. We can leapfrog them when we do our stop and come out in front of them, so it's the crucial part of the race for Ralph.
Are you a little surprised at how long Michael Schumacher is going into this Grand Prix? We're on lap 22, no signs of him stopping yet.
No, I am surprised. I didn't think they had that pace in qualifying to do that with that much fuel, so that's a bit of a surprise. But Barrichello, we thought was going to be pretty heavy. He's not really a threat behind Ralph. Yeah, I'm surprised that they've got the race pace that they have.
We've been talking, Martin and I, about the difficulty of following another car around here, Mike. We thought this place you would be able to overtake, but it's proving a little bit difficult still for Montoya to get past Fisichella in the dirty air.
Yeah, I think it's difficult for everyone, really. We were bottled up behind Massa, which was a problem for Ralph in particular, and Fizzy and everything. I mean, now we've got some clean air, we should be able to see what pace everyone can run at, and Ralph's now just going down to low 16, so hopefully that'll be enough to leapfrog the other cars.
Thanks for that, Mike Gascoigne. A 10-second stop-and-go penalty for car number 20, which is Robert Dornbos, for changing his tyres and refuelling at the same time. You're not allowed to do that in Formula 1 2005 spec. Ferrari are ready, we presume, for Michael Schumacher. Meanwhile, into the pits comes second-place man Fernando Alonso on lap 23. So he and Michael Schumacher in the end went the same distance into the Grand Prix on the fuel and qualifying. That's pretty impressive by Michael Schumacher. Here is the reigning world champion into his pit box.
No stalling problems for Alonso, as we've seen with Fisichella. Long stop there for Michael Schumacher to get him through the rest of the Grand Prix with just one more fuel stop. So it's working out very, very well for him, as we said, much better than we expected.
He's been passed, though, by Fisichella, Montoya, and possibly also just about by Ralf Schumacher as well. Haven't been able to see yet. Jenson Button, having made his earlier fuel stop, is in 7th place behind Ralf Schumacher, 7 seconds behind the Toyota. And we heard Mike Gascoigne there saying these 5 laps for Ralf are absolutely critical. There's Klein going off the racetrack, carrying a little bit too much speed, I think, into turn 12. It's the fast right-hander on the entry to the stadium. We've had a few going off there over the years.
Untold amount of paintwork damage that does to the tub. The bodywork, they can quite easily respray. The tub has to be fully stripped down and sent home and painted, and it's a nightmare. They'll have to just touch it up and bodge it up really for next weekend, because obviously no time really to refurb that car and get it to Hungary in just a few days' time. But stop-go penalty there for Dornbos. They can't touch the car at all, and that is for changing tyres and
it looked to me like they might have just released him a fraction early there. The lollipop man was sort of a bit indecisive and then turned around with that classic sort of Italian body language of, oh. Here is Giancarlo Fisichella from 4th place, having a few problems with the handling of this car. Ted Kravitz.
And look out for the bloke with the red balaclava. That's his engineer, Alan Permain. He's having a look at the left-hand side of the rear wing, and he's giving it the thumbs up. Fisichella, oh, he managed to get away. He's mastered that getaway from the pit stops this time.
What I don't understand, though, is we were told it had to be low revs, but that was buried in the rev limiter, wasn't it? So must have been a different system they were using there. Certainly he made it absolutely clear that he was trying over-revving it too hard to get it out of the pit. And it looks like Coulthard has got himself ahead of Heidfeld solidly in those pit stops then. So he runs 9th at the moment, as some drivers yet to stop. Kimi in the 1:14s now. That's quick.
So Fisichella emerged in 8th place then, behind Barrichello, but in front of David Coulthard. It's very, very tight in that group involving Ralf Schumacher, Michael Schumacher, Jenson Button, Fisichella, Coulthard, Barrichello. Very tight indeed. Only about 10 or 15 seconds separating them. And here is Kimi Räikkönen, a 1:14.873 on that last lap. He's obviously getting ready for a fuel stop of his own fairly soon. He'll be encouraged by how early Fernando Alonso came in for his pit stop. He was 0.6 of a second ahead of him on the grid, and yet here he is going further into the Grand Prix than Alonso, who made 1 or 2 small mistakes on his lap, but Räikkönen had to contend with a big moment of oversteer as well. So this puts again into context what a sensational job Räikkönen did in qualifying. Here he is coming to try and lap Klein, who is currently in 12th place in the Red Bull. McLaren are ready for him. Will he come in this time? Yes, he will. Here comes the race leader then, on lap 25, into the pits.
His practice to get down to that white line speed required. And you can see his crew relatively easily. The black overalls tend to blend into it. It's amazing how difficult it can be when you come in the pits to spot your own crew. There's a lot of activity. It just seems a maze of colour as you're scraping along the ground, peeping over the top of your little windscreen. But Raikkonen obviously finds them no problem at all. That looked like a very swift stop, didn't it?
Mustn't cross that white line until it runs out. Didn't see whether he did or not. I'm sure he didn't. He's too experienced a campaigner for that, Kimi Raikkonen. There was Fernando Alonso. You can see a long, long way back from him. It looks like Raikkonen has gained some advantage through this first round of pit stops. That's the order you can see. Michael Schumacher down to 5th. Ralf Schumacher yet to make a stop. Here he is, coming in now. Montoya too has yet to make his stop. He's up into 3rd place from the back of the grid. Obviously he'll drop back when he makes his stop, but Montoya going long on the fuel then. Perhaps a lap or two longer than his teammate. How expensive a mistake was that for Montoya yesterday in qualifying to drop it on the final corner. There goes Ralf Schumacher out to beat Giancarlo Fisichella, so he's jumped a few cars. Has Ralf Schumacher, but Fisichella's able to dive down the inside of him. A little mistake there by Ralf, and Fisichella takes the place back again.
Yeah, so all the hard work done by going longer, qualifying not too badly, all thrown away with just getting a bit too hot into turn 2, as he would have lost a little bit of brake temperature, maybe slightly distracted, and that is a good fight there between Fisichella, Ralf Schumacher, David Coulthard and Nick Heidfeld. We expected some very good scraps, didn't we, in the middle of the field, and we're getting them.
We certainly are. So it worked to a sense for Ralf Schumacher. He got himself in front of Coulthard and Heidfeld by running longer, and Massa as well. He's got himself up into 7th place then, has Ralf, from 12th on the grid, but just couldn't quite get the 7th place off, sorry, he's in 8th place, couldn't quite get the 7th place off Giancarlo Fisichella.
So who's yet to stop? Juan Pablo Montoya hasn't stopped yet, and nor has Rubens Barrichello, who stops now. So lap 26, he might even be able to get to the end if they give that a good dollop of fuel. But they'll be surprised if they want to penalise him that much in terms of the weight, and that looks like a two-stopper long first stint, doesn't it? I don't think that was enough fuel to see him right through. Absolutely not, actually.
Yeah, there's Raikkonen, your race leader, on lap 27. Montoya, his teammate, yet to stop. He's 15 seconds behind him, but he's got to make a stop as well, so that will drop him down. It'll be interesting to see where Montoya comes out. It's going to be in the region of Rubens Barrichello. Sorry, Rubens Barrichello just pitted. It's going to be in between Jenson Button in 5th place and Fisichella in 6th place, I believe, when he re-emerges. So it's working out reasonably well for Montoya. He needs a strong middle stint now, the race.
Yeah, he's been gaining about 2 seconds a lap over that pack. He's been chasing and couldn't pass, so he should have, as you say, leapfrogged a long way down the road. Looking then for an army of about 22 men dressed in black and ready to just check it over, clean out the ducts, the radiator ducts, brake ducts. The fueler is in. The man with the lollipop's looking down the pit lane and looking at the fueler, and away it goes. And he can't lift that lollipop. He can't watch the reaction to the refueler because the refueling rig doesn't always come cleanly out, but that worked beautifully.
Well, Button's gone through. Fisichella goes through now, so Montoya is between the two of them. He is in 6th place. Raikkonen leads, Alonso 2nd. Michael Schumacher is 3rd. Whoa, and now we've got Jacques Villeneuve. Knocked the nose off. So once again, contact for Villeneuve. A very eventful Grand Prix for him. And unfortunately for him, the front wing has folded itself up underneath.
Yeah, Jacques appears to be running into anything that's moving today. And quite clearly, Montero just didn't know that Jacques had committed to go down the outside of him. It wasn't really Jacques' fault, you have to say. Montero left the space, left the door wide open. Jacques appeared to say, thank you, I'll have a go down there then, and Montero just closed the door on him, taking you have to say, an unusual line through the braking zone. You can't diagonal the braking zone like that if somebody's close behind you.
Looked like he didn't know that Villeneuve was there, so the 11-race finishing streak for Montero is under threat here. Villeneuve's in difficulties as well. This is lap 29. We've got a yellow flag there for Jacques Villeneuve as he coasts back. Raikkonen leading Alonso by 11 seconds now. That pit stop really worked out for him. Approaching half distance in the German Grand Prix at Hockenheim. where Kimi Raikkonen is leading from Fernando Alonso by just over 10 seconds. Michael Schumacher is in third place. Jenson Button is fourth. Juan Montoya is fifth. We're looking at a slow-mo replay of Alonso running in second place, just an indication of how he's tackling the curbs today. Montoya from the back of the grid is up to fifth, and most important of all, he's got himself in front of Fisichella through the pit stops.
Yeah, what's interesting about that picture of Alonso really is not the curbs, but the amount of heat in his rear brakes going into what is a moderately medium speed corner to slow corner. It's surprising to see the rear brakes as hot as the front brakes. They normally have about 750, 800 degrees when they're glowing like that. So, yeah, an unusual brake bias setup he's got there.
There is
problem.
Kimi Raikkonen. At the moment, he's lapping, well, at last lap, a second faster than Alonso. And it really has been a tremendous performance by Kimi Raikkonen, who has to get victories now. He's 26 points behind Alonso in the World Championship. He needs 10 points here this afternoon. He would ideally have liked Montoya to take 8 behind him, thereby taking another 4 points out of Alonso's championship lead. We've got 8 Grand Prix, including this one, to go to the end of the season. And the current state of play, Martin, is that McLaren have improved this car, particularly single lap performance is very impressive. They do look good for front row for the next few races, but the Renault's holding on there. They're bringing developments on as much as they can. On race pace, it's just beginning to drop back a little bit from the McLaren as well. So the next few races absolutely vital for Kimi Raikkonen's World Championship challenge. He's got to win the next few.
Button, though, just 1.2 seconds behind Michael Schumacher now, but closing in on the pair of them quite quickly is Montoya. Now he's in clear air. He is beginning to match pace. He's right back into the 1:16s. So Button looking much more comfortable in this phase of the Grand Prix. It's Michael Schumacher who's not got good pace. It's a 1:17.8 for Schumacher, a 1:17.5 for Jenson. And let's see what Montoya does. A 1:17.6 on that lap, but I think he lapped somebody. But and Fisichella 6th. Coulthard has passed Ralf Schumacher somewhere out of camera shot. For 7th place, Ralf Schumacher 8th at the moment. The last of the point scorers, Heidfeld down to 9th, Massa 10th.
So tremendous battle shaping up here for the final podium position at Hockenheim between Michael Schumacher, Jenson Button and Juan Montoya as well. Giancarlo Fisichella in the Renault started 4th. We saw him getting hit by Takuma Sato on the opening lap. He was given the all-clear to continue in the Grand Prix by his race engineer Alain Permain, but he's obviously got some handling difficulties. Not for the first time this season. It's happened to Fisichella quite a lot. He's able to buy himself any luck this year. Since that win in Australia, it's just not happened for him. But tremendous scrap, I think, developing between Button, Montoya and Michael Schumacher, that final pole position. We were riding there with Christian Klien, who's dropped down to 12th place, and interestingly, Martin, he's 5 places behind his teammate David Coulthard, having started alongside him on the grid. It says an awful lot for Coulthard's performance. He's gone past Ralf Schumacher, unseen by us, into 7th place as David Coulthard, and he's having a really fine afternoon at the wheel of the Red Bull Racing.
I think David's driving as well as he probably has for some years, and maybe if not ever, really. And he's certainly comfortable where he's at, but this is amazing. You've got Klien, who really struggled at Jaguar last year, but I think has come of age. You know, when you get your crystal ball out over the winter, did you ever imagine the Jaguar team in total turmoil, morphed into Red Bull? Did you imagine Christian Klien chasing Rubens Barrichello in a Ferrari for all he's worth? Barrichello won this race from the back of the grid, didn't he, a few years back? There's back in 2000, how things change, and you know, as clever as you think you are trying to work your way through and get the best contracts, best drives, it doesn't always work out as you imagined.
One of the best things about Formula One is it changes from year to year. Who'd have thought last September that we'd be looking at a World Championship dominated by McLaren and Renault, with Ferrari struggling to get onto the pace. They seem a little stronger here, though, certainly in the hands of Michael Schumacher, currently running in 3rd place, lapping comfortably at the same sort of pace as Jenson Button, albeit that Button just takes a 10th out of him here and there. He's within a second now of the world champion, and this is a much more competitive performance for Michael Schumacher. Took a little bit of fuel out for qualifying, not as much as a lot of people thought, though, and he ran the softer tyre, and it's certainly, the whole strategy has worked very, very well for him.
Montoya's pursuit of Button has slowed down a little bit now. Button to within 0.9 of a second of Michael Schumacher. There he is. That's what 0.9 of a second looks like at 200 miles an hour. Looks a rather a long way, doesn't it? As we concertina up, it's like an accordion effect as you go into the slow braking areas, and the guy in front gets on the power earlier than you and just pulls away again. So frustrating, and that's why you can very easily run into the back of them if you're not careful.
Jenson Button complaining this weekend. The 0.8 of a second that his team is behind Renault McLaren is just too much to bridge. Doesn't see the team winning a Grand Prix this season. That doesn't mean he doesn't want to stay there, though. Certainly very keen. Whoa, that's a slow-moving McLaren, I think it is.
It's Raikkonen if it is.
Raikkonen, he's going very slowly. I don't believe it. Kimi Raikkonen, if that is who I think it is, has got a problem. It's a very high shot, difficult to tell. The engine, look at that. Oh, I don't believe it. Kimi Raikkonen. His reliability worries once again. He's the Iceman. He's not punching any steering wheels. He is just a picture of dejection and despondency because once again his car has let him down. There's always a but for him. And this is the but. It looked great at Hockenheim, but the engine failed. Or something happened to the transmission.
Yeah, I suspect the engine was fading down, hydraulic pressure drops out, you've got no clutch, and it locks the rear wheels. Whatever it is, whatever the cause, with all of the Mercedes-Benz hierarchy here today expecting victory, Raikkonen out of the Grand Prix, and that's a very significant moment for the World Championship, isn't it? Alonso takes up the lead of the Grand Prix. Ted is down at McLaren.
And that was a complete surprise to them down in the McLaren garage. Raikkonen's engineer Mark Slade just going to talk to the engine designer Mario Iliam, but Mario was just shaking his head. They think it's engine. They're not too sure till they get it back, but they think it's engine or something related to it. But it was a complete surprise to them. They hadn't cleared a space in the garage or anything like that. Sudden failure for Raikkonen.
It's a huge moment in the World Championship because it will mean if Alonso can stay where he is, which is in the pound seats looking at another win, that he will have a 36-point lead over Raikkonen with 7 Grand Prix to go and a maximum of 70 points available, and that would look fairly insurmountable unless Alonso goes on a big unreliability streak. He can definitely afford to play a percentage game with a 36-point cushion over Raikkonen. So I wonder what's going on inside the helmet of 23-year-old Fernando Alonso. It's his birthday next week. He's got an early present in the form of the retirement of Raikkonen here at Hockenheim.
Button up to the podium then in third place, just a half second shy of second place man Michael Schumacher. Montoya moves up to fourth then, and this is, yes, looks like the left bank of the V10 giving just burning some oil just briefly, and it locked the transmission up before Raikkonen could get to the clutch, but he'd been coasting a while then, hadn't he, at that point? And I suspect he'll walk in the paddock and go and immediately look for Ron Dennis and have a conversation. If not, and he'll be gone. He'll be gone. 10 minutes from now, he'll be on his way out the back of the paddock, I bet you.
And who can blame him? He's got the fastest car in Formula One, but getting it to the checkered flag seems to be a big problem at the moment in a winning position for Kimi Raikkonen. On his previous 4 visits here, he'd never had a result. He's been into the tyre wall in turn 1 at the start a few times. He's even been into it when his rear wing failed last year, when he was challenging Michael Schumacher, if you remember, for the victory. So if you look through Raikkonen's stats, you'd have to say the car has let him down on a frightening number of occasions.
Yeah, other than when he flat-spotted his tyres in Nürburgring. Remember when he was lapping Jacques Villeneuve, which was really driver error. The rest of it, I mean, he could have and should have won all the Grand Prix this year, effectively, shouldn't he? And it just hasn't happened. Button looking pretty handy now. He's ready to wring the neck of that BAR, thoroughly enjoying chasing Michael Schumacher, and P2 is doable now for Button. Montoya, though, is beginning to catch him again at about, there he is in the background, just under a second per lap. Jenson needs to clear the Ferrari of Michael Schumacher. Look at the different seating positions these two drivers have got. Michael's buried deep in the car to get the centre of gravity lower. Jenson perched up high in the seat so that he can see the front wheels and see more closely in front of his car, which is why he's so inch perfect when he turns into the corners.
Well, Michael Schumacher's got to get these softer Bridgestone tyres through another 29 laps of this Grand Prix. How comfortable will they be on the wear as we get into the closing stages? certainly at the moment, if he was to finish where he is now, Martin, Michael Schumacher would be level with Kimi Räikkönen in the World Championship on 51 points. How amazing is that? 8 points here would do it. And you'd have Alonso in front with Räikkönen and Schumacher tied in second place.
Yeah, and I think that tells you more about Räikkönen's season than Michael's relatively dismal season, really, doesn't it?
It certainly does. There have been some blanks in the year for Räikkönen. Just those 3 victories in Spain, Monte Carlo and Canada. But, well, 4 retirements before this Grand Prix. It's now a 5th. And you don't win World Championships by retiring from Grand Prix, especially not when you're main rival, Fernando Alonso, has finished all but one of the Grand Prix he started.
There's the stricken McLaren Mercedes-Benz of Kimi Räikkönen, and this is a replay of him dropping out of the Grand Prix. And there he goes, transmission locks up. As soon as the engine slows down enough, hydraulic pressure goes, you lose throttle, gear shift, clutch mechanism, and Klein has passed Rubens Barrichello. I don't know what the German director's doing there, but he missed that one completely, unfortunately. So Klein moves up to P10, Coulthard up to P6 in the sister Red Bull, and here we're going to see it. Got him lined up nicely. And what's Rubens doing? Rubens wandering around in the middle of the track, unsighted by the Minardi, really, but wow, that was an easy touch, wasn't it? What on earth was Rubens doing? He's kind of wobbling in the middle of the road. That's not like him.
There's Stefano Domenicali, the sporting director of Ferrari, widely tipped to be the man to take over ultimately from Jean Todt. He's already taken over some of his responsibilities. Incidents involving cars 11 and 18 will be investigated. That's the Villeneuve-Montero tangle we saw a few laps ago. So Klein, with that pass on Barrichello, moving up into 9th place then, into the top 10, 3 places behind teammate David Coulthard, who's having a terrific afternoon. We haven't seen a great deal of him, but he's only 4 seconds behind Giancarlo Fisichella's Renault, who's in 5th. But a tremendous scrap developing between Michael Schumacher and Jenson Button. You sense that Button getting a little closer now. Montoya is closing in on the back of Button, hitting his lap time disappear, and he's been watching Montoya appearing in his rear view mirrors larger and larger. He's the meat in the sandwich, and he's got to show that he's a real racer here and get himself past Michael Schumacher.
They're coming up to lap Webber. Webber will pretty much jump out of the way, I think, because he's so far behind. He should be getting blue flags, but that's Jenson's best chance to try and double shuffle Schumacher up against a back marker. Might be a better chance up against a Minardi or a Jordan a little bit later on, because I think Webber, and there you see the right, that's unusual, it's the right rear that's wearing on Michael's car, and the tyre, I mean, obviously it's a clockwise racetrack. Necessarily there's got to be a lot more rights than lefts to get back to the beginning, but it's the right rear that's looking thin.
Well, Michael Schumacher had problems slowing the car down there into turn 2. Did you see? Now he goes around the outside of Mark Webber. Jenson Button will have had an eye on that. There might be an opportunity for Button, if he can get a nice clean entry into 2 and good braking, to pick up on the acceleration and get down the inside of Schumacher here into this hairpin. This is the favoured overtaking place. You can see the Ferrari's able to pick up on the acceleration quite nicely out of the hairpin. Just seems to be in getting the car slowed down that Schumacher's got a problem at the moment. Look at Montoya. Well, starting from 20th, having dropped it in qualifying on the final corner. He was aiming for a podium here this afternoon. Ted Kravitz, what can you tell us?
And down at BAR, all very nervously excited down here. The engineers on the pit wall willing Jenson on, because remember, Jenson has 5 or 6 laps less fuel than Michael Schumacher. So if he's got any chance of P2, he needs to pass Michael on the road right now, because his second stop is coming up very shortly.
Yeah, I think Montoya's going to leapfrog the pair of them. I'm looking at the computer for top speeds all around the circuit. There are 4 of them, and Montoya's at the front of 3 of them and second in the other one, the 4th one. He's got a very fast car in a straight line. He's got a very fast car in clear air, and we know he's fueled a little bit longer. So Montoya's in with a great chance here of moving up to P2. And there are the rear tyres, and if you look at Michael's right rear, clearly carrying a bit more camber on that tyre than they've stood the left rear up a little bit to help it reduce wear rate. Jenson Button getting very frustrated. They'd almost be better here. In fact, I think they have to pit him early, get him out of the turbulent air of Michael. If they can slot him in, work out where the rest of the traffic is, on the racetrack. Try and slot Jensen back in. They've got to do it now, otherwise he'll have no defence against Montoya.
Yeah, he's not too far away from his second stop anyway. He stopped on lap 20 first time round, which would bring him in sometime around 46, 47, and this is lap 45, so he can't be a million miles away from his pit stop, Jenson Button. Meanwhile, as you say, Martin, Montoya keeping a watching brief. He knows he's got more fuel in the car. He knows he can leapfrog the pair of these two characters and possibly get himself up into second place, having started from the back of the grid. Whether or not he can do anything about the 30-second lead this man Alonso has, that's a different matter. Montoya just dropping back a little bit now, though, from the Ferrari BAR battle.
Yeah, he's popped back into the 117, so... I didn't see a problem, didn't see any specific traffic.
I wonder if he's been radioed and told to do something different in light of what's happened to Kimi Raikkonen there. They suspected an engine failure. And here goes Button up the inside of Schumacher. Something flies off. I think he may have just run over some debris. He ran it up the inside of him into the hairpin. Schumacher keeps his foot in and tries to go around the outside. What a brave move by Jenson Button. Fantastic. That's for second place.
Yeah, and that's so important. I hope he doesn't have to pit too early now that he's made that move. But Button then just took a dive down the inside. He had to do it. He had to make it stick. But he still didn't lock brakes or get all leery, did he? Came from quite a long way back too. But you know you can trust a professional like Michael Schumacher not to just literally turn in on you. And Jenson absolutely worked that one beautifully. There we go again. And just squeezed Michael out. And not every driver you could do that against, that's for sure.
Absolutely right. A tremendous move by Jenson Button. He's in second place, where he finished here last year for BAR. And look already at the margin he's pulled out on the Ferrari. That's how much Michael Schumacher was holding him up. Jenson is released. The race takes on a different phase altogether, and Montoya has an interest in this, because although he's got a bit more fuel than the two cars in front, he doesn't want Button to get too far ahead of him and for himself to get held up. Ooh. And look, as I said, I think it's the timing isn't really ideal from Jenson's point of view with that stop coming up. This is lap 46.
Well, it could be for Sato, of course, but Jenson stopped on lap 20. This is lap 46, so he's gone quite a long way anyway on this tank of gas. But I fear it might be his turn to come in. But at least he's got himself a bit of a gap to Michael. He can defend himself now against the Ferrari. Will he have a defence against Montoya later on?
He could have done with making that move a lap or two earlier, but you can't always have what you want, especially not in Formula One. Highly competitive environment that it is. And now it's Montoya who is behind Michael Schumacher. Suddenly closed up on him again, hasn't he? I think what he must have been doing, dropping back, was just getting out of the dirty air. He knew he had to hang around in the slipstream of the Ferrari. Schumacher lapping in the 1:18s. Jenson Button that last time a 1:16, and Button comes into the pits from second.
Yeah, this is actually great news that Montoya is being held up. For Button, that is, of course. And not if you're a McLaren fan or a Montoya fan. This will be a fuel to the end, beautifully away. So just 7.7 seconds, a good stop for a two-stopper, isn't it? Now he's got to put in the outlap of his life and some great opening laps with this heavier car. So, and then he might just stay ahead of Montoya. As long as Montoya gets tucked up behind Schumacher. They're doing sort of... Michael did a 17.1 that time. Of course, they're light on fuel now.
Well, Ralf Schumacher was going down the pit straight at the time when Jenson went out, so I don't know if he got out in front of Ralf Schumacher, who was sick, or not. Coulthard will also have to pit fairly soon. Here is the race leader in for his second stop of the afternoon. A decisive moment then in the afternoon, not so much for Alonso, who's got a 37-second lead, but for Button, Michael Schumacher and Juan Montoya, and the composition of the podium. This next few laps are going to be pretty crucial in a few laps' time. There is Montoya. And Alonso still leading on lap 48. Lap 50 of the German Grand Prix. Second place, Michael Schumacher pits. Jenson Button is exiting turn 16 into turn 17. Coming down the pit straight, here he is. Jenson Button going to nab the place away from Michael Schumacher.
Yeah, he's going to keep it easy because he did a 1:17.0 on his first flying lap, did Jenson, first complete flying lap, and Michael was doing a 1:17.0 while he was out there. Michael runs wide in turn 2. It's now all about how fast Montoya can go He's in traffic. He's done a 1:18.0. This could be working out very nicely for Button if he can just keep pumping in those hot laps. It was a 16.9 this time around, and now look at Michael's tyres all round, looking very, very thin indeed. Barrichello, I think he's just about to have Klein behind him, so he regains that place that Klein took away from him.
Yep, the battle then between Juan Montoya and Jenson Button for second place here this afternoon, because Alonso is leading this Grand Prix. He up this afternoon and still has a 17 seconds in his pocket over Juan Montoya in second place. And Jenson Button fighting with Michael Schumacher as well. He's in front of him. Schumacher seems to be struggling with the right rear tyre, right rear Bridgestone tyre on his Ferrari. Has been for the last 10 or 15 laps. Button was bottled up behind him as Fisichella pits from what was third place. It's not been his afternoon either, Fisichella. He was hit by Takuma Sato in the opening lap. It was a very dramatic start to this Grand Prix. Lots of jostling, quite a few collisions. Mark Webber involved, Dornbos involved, Jacques Villeneuve involved as well. Takuma Sato hit Fisichella, as we mentioned. Jarno Trulli had to come into the pits as well, so quite an unsettling opening lap.
That worked out well for Ralf Schumacher. He's ahead of David Coulthard now, I believe. That was a great pit stop for Toyota and really launched his man right up in there behind Giancarlo Fisichella. So suddenly Ralf Schumacher's come right into play for the scrap of the middle run of point. Louise has news.
Yeah, I did tell you it might be a while before I got to speak to Kimi Räikkönen. It's going to be about a week, actually. There were a bank of TV cameras waiting outside the communications centre to speak to him. He's thwarted us all. He's sneaked out through the kitchen and into a waiting car and sped away. I guess he was trying to beat the traffic.
One of the Ferraris is in trouble. Looks like Rubens Barrichello. Very, very slow there. What happened here? Covering Klein.
Yes, Klein once again outbraking easily the Ferrari, but Barrichello's got a problem on the exit of the corner, just going absolutely nowhere in a hurry. Klein came from a long way back, but Barrichello obviously struggling for pace, so some kind of problem inside that Ferrari. Looked brake related, although on the exit of the corner he wasn't getting away either. Alonso's lead 16 seconds over Montoya, who's doing 1:16.0s now. Button's doing 17.1s. Montoya surely is going to emerge in second place when he makes his stop.
We've lost Kimi Räikkönen. Louise Goodman there referring to the fact he's retired from this Grand Prix. We don't know what the reason was yet. The team think it might be an engine failure. Certainly the car ground to a halt just 16 laps ago and snatched victory away from Räikkönen. He looked fairly comfortable, clear of Fernando Alonso, his big championship rival. And if Alonso can stay where he is here for the last 15 laps, he's going to have a 36-point cushion over Räikkönen with only 7 Grand Prix to go in this World Championship. Our attention is focused on the battle between Montoya and Button. Montoya has one more step to make. That last lap, a 1:16.3. Jenson Button was 18 seconds behind him at the end of the previous lap. What is the margin now? We're still waiting for Button to come through, but Montoya certainly looks as though he's going to snatch second place away from Button.
I think we could see Michael Schumacher tumbling down the field yet. On a fresh tank of fuel with the skinny tyres, he's really hurting on his pace. He's in the 18s and consistently in the 18s. He'll have Fisichella, Ralf Schumacher, and this is all for position back in 12th and 13th. And Montoya, second place man Montoya, getting held up in it. They should actually, theoretically, be getting out of his way, probably not getting any blue flags waved. And finally Heidfeld does move out of his way and truly tried to punish him around the outside, but failed. But that's held Montoya up quite a lot on this lap. I still think he's got enough in his pocket to leapfrog Button. Michael Schumacher's just 4.6 seconds ahead of Fisichella and about 6 seconds ahead of Ralf Schumacher's brother in 6th. So I think we're going to see some more action yet from the Ferrari in terms of falling down the field.
Well, Montoya was 20 seconds ahead of Button in that beginning of that lap, but he's obviously lost some time in that traffic. The battle between Heidfeld and Trulli for 12th and 13th. Ted Kravitz, what can you tell us?
I've been down to Renault and they're very concerned about Fisichella's rear brake wear. You might have seen in Fisi's pit stop that they took off the rear wheels to have a look at the brake discs and the pads, and seem happy enough, but it's good news for Jenson Button. If Fisi's in trouble with rear brake wear, then he won't be mounting a challenge to Button.
Well, we've seen the camera, the director's homed in a couple of times now on Alonso's rear brakes, and normally you get about 55 to 60% of your pedal energy goes into your front brakes, and it's very unusual to see the rears running so hot. So I wonder, they'll also be looking at Fisichella's, wondering how Alonso's are, I'd imagine, our current leader, by 16 seconds.
Saw a message there. Busy day for the stewards here this afternoon. We've had quite a lot of drive-through penalties. Jarno Trulli, the latest for ignoring blue flags. That's when the leader is coming through, wave blue flags. You've got to get out of his way. If you miss a few, drive-through a few, then you will get a drive-through penalty.
Yeah, it's also when you're being lapped effectively, and I would imagine that is for when he failed to let Montoya through. We saw the action, didn't we? He didn't want to let Montoya through at all.
In comes Takuma Sato. Not been a terrific afternoon for him. He's in 11th place at the moment. Here comes Trulli to serve that penalty. Drive through. That costs him about 13 seconds onto his race time. So he's not really got anybody behind him. Christian Albers is the next man, the Minardi in 14th place. So Trulli may have just lost a spot, but I don't think he did.
Yeah, Montoya 1 minute 15.8 on that lap. Jenson Button 1 minute 17.7. So of course Montoya's ahead of Button on the track by 21.6 seconds, but he's got to make another stop. That's what I'm trying to explain, that even with the extra stop, he's now got enough of an advantage, as Karthikeyan has yet another adventure off track, and then straight off the other side of the track.
On it, doesn't he, Narain Karthikeyan? Getting a little bit more leery of late, as we mentioned yesterday in qualifying. Here is the Trulli-Heidfeld scrap, and Trulli just running it up the inside. I wonder if that's from before he got the drive-through penalty. I think it might have been, because he will have dropped off the back of Heidfeld a little bit, I would imagine. So here's the man with all the eyes on him. His teammate Raikkonen has retired from this Grand Prix when his victory seemed assured, a victory that would have kept his championship hopes alive, instead of which he's relying on Montoya to try and do something about Alonso. It's too much to ask, though, because by the time Montoya's made his stop, he'll be half a minute behind the Renault, as in comes Jarno Trulli for his second stop of the afternoon.
Yeah, let's not forget Montoya started 20th and last on the grid, went straight up to P11 at the end of the first lap, and then struggled, didn't he? Hit the buffers. But now the team are in the pit lane for Juan Pablo Montoya to make that stop. He's got 22.7 seconds advantage over Button, plus anything he can make on the in-lap. So let's say 23 seconds. That ought to be enough, didn't it, to get him out?
More than enough. More than enough. He's done the job. Now it's up to the team to do the job. No delays. No sticking wheel nuts. No problems with refuelling hoses for Montoya. He wants a nice, clean, undramatic pit stop. Where's Button?
They don't want to be touching the wheel nuts either, do they? Not allowed to take those off now. But they can certainly have nozzle problems with those refueling rigs. In the pits he goes. No point in charging at your men, because they're all backing off instead of coming towards you. You want to be able to let the refueler follow the nozzle in, that sounded like a nearly stall, didn't it? He just kept it alive. And look, he's out of the pit lane speed limit now, and Button's still midway down the pit straight. Job done. At the moment, now Button's got to recharge, as Montoya now with identical. In fact, that was Sato. Button was even further behind.
Yeah, Montoya pits and retains second place. That's the top 8 at the moment. Coulthard's still going very well, although he's lost a place to Ralf Schumacher. And we've got 11 to go here at Hockenheim. Good. He's not been able to match the speed of the McLarens and the Renaults, but he's certainly next best. That's good enough at the moment for a podium for Jenson Button on a track he's always excelled at. Second place here last year. He's on target for third. Schumacher Fisichella, you can see here, is the battle for fourth and fifth, with Ralf Schumacher sixth, also in that battle as well. It's been a tremendous performance by Toyota to get him up there by himself as well, tactics-wise and driving-wise, to get himself in the hunt. Coulthard is seventh, and Massa is in 8th place for Sauber.
Yes, I think if Fisichella gets anywhere near Michael Schumacher, he should comfortably pass him under braking. That's truly pitting for the 6th time this afternoon. He's a lap down. One of those was a drive-through. But I think for Fisichella, it's kind of do or be done if he's not careful. Because look at Ralf Schumacher having had a great pit stop. Toyota brought him right into the hunt, up in P6 at the moment. He's just a fraction behind too. But Fisichella on the rampage, and Michael looking relatively defenceless. There's 7 laps to go, though. If he's got a wide enough Ferrari, he might just hang on.
Well, it was Michael Schumacher doing the monstering at Imola, wasn't it, in the closing stages behind Fernando Alonso. Now he's getting a taste of what it feels like. The Ferrari has eaten through its tyres a little bit. He went with the softer tyre option. It was always going to be a little bit touch and go whether they would last the whole 67 laps of this Grand Prix. Fisichella looking very racy behind him. Well, we've been joined during this race by Technical Director of Toyota, Mike Gascoigne. Here he is now. We're riding on board with Ralf Schumacher. You told us what you were going to do strategy-wise, Mike, and it's worked out beautifully.
Yeah, I mean, the only disappointment was we got in front of Fissy at the first stop. That worked really well for us, but Ralf on his outlap struggled a little bit for grip and lost a couple of places. But we've picked up past Coulthard again, and it's nice to be racing with the Renaults, which we haven't done for the last couple of races. Unfortunately, with Jarno, we've got a pneumatic problem. We've had to fill him a couple of times. Disappointing, because we wanted to get him past the Williams of Heidfeld.
We've seen several drivers struggle in turn 2 after they leave the pits, Mike. How much tyre temperature and pressure are they losing sitting there for 7-8 seconds?
It's quite a significant amount, and it does make it, especially once the tyre's worn and it won't retain so much heat, it does make it difficult to restart the tyre. We couldn't pick the prime tyre here this weekend for exactly that reason. We couldn't restart it after the pit stop, and the option's better, but it's still a problem.
6 laps to go in this Grand Prix, Mike. Your man here, we're looking at him behind Fisichella, stuck behind Michael Schumacher, who seems to be struggling on these tyres at the moment. What do you think's going to happen?
Well, I think at the moment I'd like to see Fizzy having a bit of go at Michael and see if we can pick up anything if they ever coming together. I mean, Michael's obviously struggling with the rears. We noticed it very early on in the race that they had a lot of wear on the rear tyres. So, yeah, I think we'd encourage Fizzy to be as aggressive as he likes.
Thanks, Mike, for your help and information this afternoon. Have you heard anything from Ralf during the race?
No, we've actually got a problem with his radio, so he's on permanent transmit and can't hear us. And balance was pretty good. Neither driver wanted any balance change during the pit stops. So, I mean, it's been in the end a disappointing race for us because we've had really good race pace. And yeah, we're only going to pick up 2 or 3 points, which is disappointing.
Thank you very much, Mike Gascoigne. And look at this, Giancarlo Fisichella having a go at Michael Schumacher. He tries to run it up the inside of him. You know he's going to do it again. That was just an opening exchange, just to let Michael know that he was there. He's lost a little bit of ground, but I'm sure he'll close that up very quickly. And I think Ralf Schumacher as well will be keeping an eye on this, thinking if Fisichella makes a mistake, I will have 5th place off him, and then maybe have a crack at my brother for 4th as well. It's going to be a very long 5 laps for Michael Schumacher.
Yes, Fizzy got a much better drive out of the hairpin, but this was a half effort here, and he nearly frightened himself into the side of Michael's car and then dropped 4 or 5 car lengths and didn't quite work out. He really should have, I think he should have spotted that a touch earlier. It was never going to happen, that one. He'd been better to position himself for the exit of the corner.
He's done well, in a sense, Fisichella, that he got a huge whack on the opening lap from Takuma Sato, which must have affected the handling and balance of this Renault. He's never been on the pace of his teammate who's leading this Grand Prix, Fernando Alonso. He's now 53 seconds behind him, and he's been mixed up in this midfield battle as well. So Fisichella's done well to get himself in a position to challenge for 4th, but he really wants to get and try and get past.
Coulthard might join that party too. Michael's going so slowly, he's in the 18s. Coulthard low 17s, late 16s, is about to join. It's about 3 seconds adrift at the moment, so before the end of the race he'll be there, probably a little bit too late. But Michael, you know, we've got the same situation. Fisichella with a much faster car can't do anything with it.
There is Juan Montoya, the sole surviving McLaren Mercedes-Benz. We saw Kimi Räikkönen, who appeared to have this race won. He had some sort of technical failure, either an engine failure or a transmission failure. We haven't been told yet by the team, but it stopped him out on the track just around half distance in this Grand Prix. And that means he will be 36 points behind Alonso going forward from here. So that's been the story of the Grand Prix as far as he's concerned. Montoya making up for his error in qualifying yesterday, where he crashed in the final corner of his lap, has gone from 20th on the grid to 2nd. A tremendous fight through the field for him. He managed to leapfrog Jenson Button at the 2nd round of pit stops. Button's done a super job this afternoon in a car which is demonstrably not as quick as the McLaren or the Renault. And there's another man, another Brit, who's had a very strong afternoon here in Germany. David Coulthard in the Red Bull Racing is in 7th place, just over 2 seconds behind the Toyota of Ralf Schumacher. And he is the highest placed non-works car, if you like. Not a works engine in there, it's the Cosworth engine, which is a decent engine, but without the factory backing of Renault, Mercedes-Benz, Toyota, Honda, etc. So it's been a super job by the whole team and by David Coulthard. And then Felipe Massa also having another strong afternoon in 8th place. Teammate Villeneuve down in 15th. Big disparity this afternoon in the performance between teammates. A few of them have been lapping each other, and Klein in 9th is 3 places behind David Coulthard. 3 to go. Is Fisichella going to be able to get past Michael Schumacher? That's the remaining story. Ted Kravitz has news for us.
Well, I've been into the Ferrari garage. They're absolutely exasperated with the conditions of the tyres we've seen on Michael's car. They say there is just no grip. Both drivers saying there's just no grip on these tyres anymore. They say both drivers are doing their best. They can't do any more. That just about sums up their season, doesn't it?
Well, this is the season in which the rules changed to say you have to make a single set of tyres last for the single lap qualifying on Saturday and then the whole 2-hour Grand Prix on Sunday. Schumacher locks up, Fisichella looks up on the inside of him. Is he going to use that legendary Renault acceleration? Michael Schumacher just about manages to keep in front, but it's almost side by side for Giancarlo Fisichella through 7 into 8 then. This is a slow corner, picking up the pace into the stadium section after this, down the short straight.
Yeah, Giancarlo keeps having half goes though, but Michael outbraked himself as his tyre grip, mechanical grip of his tyres fades away. But Fizzy tried to duck up the inside of a flat-out right-hander a little bit, 2 corners down from here, and the torque and traction of the Renault getting him up nearly alongside. But at this point he should have swapped back to the other side and got a cleaner run through, and he's let Michael off the hook.
So he's got 2 more chances using the slower corners and the hairpins. The crowd love this. They like the doggedness and determination of Michael Schumacher, who, despite having a Renault behind him, look how much smoke comes off as Schumacher tries to get this car slowed down. It's been a problem for him for over 20 laps now, and it's been an amazing performance by him of defensive driving, not something Schumacher's had to do an awful lot of in his recent career. It's a reversal of Imola, where a Renault is harrying a Ferrari here. It was the other way around at Imola, and there too. Oh, he's got through! We missed it! He was got through! The German director was having a look at the leader, and Fisichella ran up the inside of Michael Schumacher. Here's how he did it.
Yeah, got in his slipstream down the back straight, got track position under braking for the hairpin. At that point it's pretty easy. Michael tries to swoop out wide to cut back inside. There's no way to go. He then had to defend himself against his brother, but Fisichella then finally making it stick to move up to 4th place. Alonso leads from Montoya. Button a comfortable 3rd, just beginning to catch Montoya a little bit. Michael Schumacher slips down to 5th then. He's got Ralf, his brother, right behind him, and Coulthard in very close company too.
Well, this is now the last lap for Alonso. He's got such a significant lead over the battle we've been watching. They're a minute behind him on the racetrack. And so Fernando Alonso is on the slowing down, is on the final lap of this Grand Prix. Jarno Trulli has had a troubled afternoon. Manages to get out of the car. He's retiring from this Grand Prix. This is going to be victory number 7 for Fernando Alonso in his career. And what an important one for him. Across the line he goes, it's the only time all weekend he's gone slowly, but it's all he needed to do, because he wins the German Grand Prix. McLaren are on the podium, but it's not Kimi Räikkönen. It's the man who finished at the back of the grid, started at the back of the grid to come through to 2nd place, Juan Montoya, making up for his mistake yesterday, giving himself a good qualifying slot for the Hungarian Grand Prix. And Jenson Button, a fabulous drive once again at Hockenheim. He's always excelled here in 3rd place. Then it will be Fisichella coming through 4th, Michael Schumacher 5th, unless he's been passed by teammate Ralf Schumacher. And that has been Giancarlo Fisichella. All line astern, there they go, 4, 5. Where's the Toyota? There it is, 6th place, Ralf Schumacher.
7th for Coulthard, 8th for Massa, the final point to him then. So 1st and 4th for Renault, and Alonso, he does like to make sure we can keep count.
6 wins this season for Fernando Alonso, and the championship one step closer. Welcome back to Hockenheim. James Allen and Martin Brundle with you. Fernando Alonso has his 6th victory of the season. And Flavio Briatore, the team principal of Renault, knows that his team and his driver are one giant step closer to both the Drivers' and Constructors' Championships as a result of what's happened here this afternoon. From pole, Kimi Raikkonen led and looked very strong for the win, but then his car failed him once again. He goes away with no points, and a swing of 10, another 10 towards Alonso. That was Juan Montoya climbing the stairs. He finished in 2nd place and gets himself on the podium, having started at the back of the grid. And Jenson Button in 3rd place. A lot of very strong performances this afternoon, Martin. Who's your driver of the day?
You can't really give it to Montoya, can you? Because he shouldn't have been at the back of the grid. You can't reward him for having made a mistake and then driving through. He should have really won the race and started at the front. Why is it his car's more reliable than Kimi's? That's extraordinary, isn't it? Solid performance from Alonso. Button did a great job. Coulthard will be very pleased with his afternoon's work as well. I think I'm going to give driver of the day to the only man that didn't finish the race, which is Kimi Raikkonen. What did he do wrong? He was absolutely perfect. It's not his fault, and he should be up there leading or challenging for the World Championship. And now he's under pressure from Schumacher for 3rd place. He is driving supremely well.
Yeah, he's also got the fastest car in Formula One. Even Renault admit that. Even Alonso admits that. He said he was proud to be fighting against Raikkonen. He's a great driver, and the McLaren is the fastest car at the moment. But it's not a car that seems to be finishing Grand Prix, certainly not in Raikkonen's hands. And it's costing them. It's costing them the World Championship at the rate they're going.
Fisichella 50 seconds behind his teammate. Got held up in traffic, of course, and knocked about on the first lap. But Alonso, 6 Grand Prix victories. They're going to be difficult. 7 races left, 70 points available.
Well,
we're hearing it's hydraulic failure on the McLaren of Raikkonen, which would explain the mild puff of blue smoke, probably the hydraulic oil against the exhaust pipe. That's why he'd have been coasting too without any throttle, and finally runs out of power and clutch.
Win number 6 of the season for Alonso, but 3 of them have come from races where Raikkonen was leading and dropped out. That's significant. Renault have never won the Constructors' Championship as a chassis maker. They've won it plenty of times as an engine builder. They're a big step closer to it after today. Sol McLaren on the podium then. Some pride for his team. That's his mechanics, Montoya, coming back from the back. The man who looks very much like Murray Walker, but he's wearing a German suit, presents the 3rd place prize to Jenson Button. A fabulous performance by him. The 110,000 crowd are not seeing Michael Schumacher on the podium. as they have seen so many times in the past. But they have seen a decent motor race, and they have seen a gigantic disappointment for Kimi Raikkonen. One giant leap towards becoming the youngest ever Formula One world champion for Fernando Alonso. We'll see you next Sunday in Budapest.
Thank you, James. A dire Saturday for Montoya, an excellent Sunday. Wonderful to see Jenson Button tasting the champagne again. This could just have been the pivotal result of the season. Another Hockenheim blank for Raikkonen. Fernando Alonso will enjoy his 24th birthday on Friday. The rain stayed away at Hockenheim. Fernando Alonso has won the German Grand Prix, and just take a look at the gap at the top of the drivers' table now. 30, that's the result, I should say. Alonso 10 points, of course. Montoya last to second place. What might have happened if the Colombian had qualified higher up the grid? Jenson Button, that is marvellous to see Jenson on the podium there. Fisichella overtaking Michael Schumacher right at the end. Ralf Schumacher as well coming through very, very strongly to pick up 3 points for Toyota. Thanks to Mike Gascoigne for some excellent contributions from the pit wall here on ITV F1. And David Coulthard, a runner-up here 3 times. 2 good points for Red Bull from David Coulthard, and Massa making his point for Sauber. Now here we are, and we can just see that advantage. Alonso is now a massive 36 points clear. You know, he could win the championship as early as Spa, or at Monza. He could claim it as early as that. 87 against 51. Michael Schumacher is now in clear air, really, in third place. Montoya steadily making up ground on 34 points. Barrichello and Trulli both level on 31, neither scoring today. Then Fisichella putting a little bit of heat on them on 30. Ralf Schumacher 26, and Heidfeld and Webber 25 and 22. And Kimi Raikkonen all set. The Mercedes employees, all of them in that stand sitting back. Here we go. Kimi's going to win, and the car grinds to a halt again.
If you go back to San Marino when the drive shaft went, you can go back to Malaysia, you know, when the tyre failed, when we had a valve problem. But this time we now know it's down to the hydraulics. When the Mercedes engines went previously in France and Britain, we know it was the bearing inside the engine. We know it was then the shaft to the oil pump and the water pump. This time it's the hydraulics. The reliability issue, they found the speed, the car is fantastic. They found power in the Mercedes engine, but it's let them down before now. They've kept back with the second place and third place. That's ruined their season, compromised the whole season.
Thank you, Tony. Kimi Raikkonen saying absolutely nothing. He crept out of the McLaren motorhome through the tradesman's entrance. These three are talking, though.
A big win, not only win number 6 by a large margin, but also on a day when your nearest championship rival failed to score.
Yes, it was obviously a fantastic day, perfect for me, and you know, I did my perfect race. The car balance was almost perfect from the beginning to the end. We didn't adjust anything in the pit stops because I felt really good and competitive, but obviously it was not enough in the first 30 laps to follow Kimi, because he was a little bit quicker than us, 2 or 3 tenths a lap. So, you know, I thought at that time that second place was good enough. But obviously, again, after another retirement from Kimi, the race was a little bit boring, being in first place with so big gap.
Boring, but no doubt emotional, seeing Kimi by the side of the circuit there, and then obviously traffic and all the problems that can occur in the later stages of a race. Yes,
always traffic has been a little bit worse than normal in the last 2 races, and here again we didn't see many blue flags or any blue flags at all. So it was difficult to lap the people, and now at the end of the race I had a group of 4 or 5 cars in front of me, so I just back off a little bit because Juan Pablo was 30 seconds behind me. Just to don't have any risk, any problem at the end.
Well, obviously you have reliability on your side, but as you say, the pace was there from Kimi in the early laps. Your thoughts on the difference between the 2 cars, between the McLaren and the Renault and the upcoming races?
Yes, that's been a good surprise. I think the McLaren was so dominant all weekend, and now in the race we saw that we improve a little bit. We know in the race pace we are a little bit closer to them. And I think for the next coming races, obviously, we have to improve our car, our package, if we want to beat them, because at the moment they are a little bit quicker than us. But again, the races is 70 laps, not 30, and we finish the races.
Congratulations. Juan Pablo, congratulations to you too. The heaviest fuel load in the field and a great drive from the back of the grid up to second place.
Yeah, it's a bit frustrating because I think on base for my qualifying pace on the fuel we had, I should have won the race, but I made a mistake yesterday, and I did apologize yesterday, but I want to apologize to all the guys that work in my car. But at least today I brought it back to the podium from 20 to second, so it's not that bad.
And you had some interesting racing along the way.
Yeah, it was good. First few laps were a bit crazy, and then I saved a lot of fuel in the first stint. I had a lot of fuel, but I managed to save quite a bit running behind traffic. And when I had a kill track, I pushed. The same thing when I got Michael and Jenson. It was safe fuel there, and I got a little bit worried with Jenson when Jenson passed Michael, because my car is just very quick by itself, but in traffic wasn't so good. But it's a good day. It's a very good day.
You won't like me asking this question, but just to go back to yesterday, you're a great driver, you win Grand Prix, you're in a great car. How did that spin actually occur on that lap?
I don't know, I think probably was on the curve when I lifted and the rear end just came around. It's a bit of a shame. It was a good lap, you saw I had quite a bit more, and I had more fuel than Kimi, and my idea was to try to put it on pole, and I knew the car was there to put it on pole. I knew Kimi's lap wasn't great, and if I put it a good lap, it was good enough to be there, and up to there was a good lap. Just didn't finish it.
Well, you did a great job today. Congratulations. And Jenson, congratulations to you too. Your second podium finish of the year, if we include Imola, and some great racing there, initially with Michael Schumacher.
Yeah, it was a good race. I mean, it was a lot of fun. It was nice to actually be battling with someone. But Michael got in front of me at the start of the race. He drove off wide on the first turn and was able to get in front. And from after the first pit stop, I was stuck behind him and I just couldn't get past. It's so difficult to get past the Ferrari around here. Finally got past him into the hairpin and then disappeared for a lap before my pit stop. But that lost me a lot of time, and maybe there was something a little bit more that we could have done if I wasn't stuck behind him. But even so, it's been a good weekend for us, and I've got to thank the whole team that have done a great job. So.
Well then, Nick Fry, how much does it mean to you to see Jenson Button in that press conference for real?
Well, it means a lot to me. It means a lot to the rest of the team. Huge effort by everyone at Honda, everyone based at Bracknell at the factory, and great drive from Jenson.
Before the race, Jenson said fourth would be the best he could hope for, so he's exceeded his own expectations there. How about yours?
Well, you know, if you're in that top group, things happen, and obviously there was some bad luck with one of the other cars, and we could take advantage of that. But I think that's the key to all of this, is just always being in those, that first couple of rows.
There is a debate raging about Jenson Button's future. What are you going to do to ensure he stays with you next season?
Well, I think we've demonstrated to Jenson what the team can do. The team is now half owned by Honda. We're in a good position to go forward and win the World Championship, and we hope that will be with Jenson. Jenson will look at this as a long-term decision. I think he can see the potential, and hopefully he's going to stay with us.
But there has to be some horse trading with Sir Frank Williams, doesn't there? Because he said to us before the race, he has got a contract, no question about that. He's with us next season.
That may well be true. I'm sure it is if Frank said that's the case. If there's a contract, there's a contract. But I guess my view would be you can take a horse to water, but it's difficult to make it drink. And clearly I wouldn't want a driver in my team that didn't want to drive for us.
Just a final question on Jenson Button. How soon can we expect a real decision about what will happen or what won't happen next season?
Well, I think the first point is for Jenson to make his intentions clear, and hopefully he'll do that very shortly, and I think there are going to be some issues after that, as you rightly say, so I don't think this is something that's going to be sorted out too quickly, but hopefully not too long.
OK, it's good to see the bubbly heading BAR's way after a Grand Prix. Enjoy your drink. Well done.
Thank you very much indeed.
Okay,
cheers.
Thanks a lot. Let's take a view on Britain's other driver here, David Coulthard. Excellent drive from David in the Red Bull car. He finished 7th in the German Grand Prix.
Well, David, a result worth celebrating, I think.
Yeah, a couple of points is good, but inevitably we can try and understand where we lost out to Ralph. He ran a little bit longer, but I really struggled after my stop with fuel on board. Balance seemed to shift quite a bit, and I was going as much as 2 seconds laps lower, which you're always going to get past in that situation. So yeah, disappointed, because again we're thankful for the points, but we were genuinely quick enough to be a bit further up.
Tony, I'll remember this race for Jenson Button's manoeuvre, overtaking Michael Schumacher in Germany.
Yeah, he will too.
Irrespective of the tyres.
Yeah, and irrespective of the fact that he knew he was going to come into his pit stop quite soon. But look at the state of the rear tyres on the Ferrari. Simply because Michael had taken a risk on going for these very, very soft experimental tyres with the new soft compounds they've been working on. Even so, Jensen hounded him down. He pushed him to the outside there and went through on the inside the hairpin. Don't forget, Jensen being pushed onto the inside while Michael Schumacher took him on the inside, on the apron, on the runoff area at the start of the race. No wonder the BAR team there say, yeah, go on, Jensen.
And Michael Schumacher, those rear tyres absolutely shot to pieces. Giancarlo Fisichella, well, I wonder whether he was going to do it, Giancarlo, but he got Michael Schumacher in the end.
Got to say credit to Michael Schumacher, because he just kept locking up desperate efforts to try and keep Fisichella behind him. Fisichella, who lost out when he stalled at Silverstone, the British Grand Prix, lost the podium, but he was probably Briatore and everyone speaking to him down the radio, get inside there, we need the constructors' points. And Fisichella finally gets his man and gets through into fourth position, pushing the Ferrari back down to fifth. Michael Schumacher, I say, he must have been driving on the canvas there for those last 20 laps. He did a sensational job.
Yeah, and it's the big result for Renault with that Constructors' Championship that they really do cherish. And the last word to Fernando Alonso. He always tells us how many races he's won, just in case we lose count at the end. But he took full advantage of Raikkonen's misfortune.
Sure. I mean, this man is supreme. He's so intelligent. He's so quick. He's so fast. And there we go. 2 hands off the wheel to let us know it's 6 this year, 7 career total, and he'll head off to Hungary, which of course was the scene of his very first Grand Prix victory a couple of years ago when he lapped Michael Schumacher. And this man is heading to the World Championship crown.
And just to finish, Tony, an extra blow for Kimi Raikkonen. He will be first out in qualifying on that Dust Bowl in Hungary.
Yeah, I was going to say he's recently celebrated the Finnish midsummer, and they do go a bit mad, and he did in Milan last week. He'd probably go off tonight and have his own little sort of solace with himself. It's going to be difficult for him to raise his head and get his pepper going for Hungaroring in a few days' time. So Ron's going to have a good long chat with him and really lift his spirits.
Good, Tony Jardine, thank you very much indeed for your contributions this afternoon. Leave you with Jenson Button pushing aside Michael Schumacher on home ground. Schumi's army could hardly believe their eyes. See you next week. Bye.